I'ma strive forever free. Life tried to break me, shake me, but I'm still here. Vision so clear, I got nothing to fear. Steps ordained, I maintain my lane. Hustle in my veins, purpose in my brain. Purpose is my guide, I won't be denied. With every stride, I feel alive. Overcoming, thriving, I won't hide. In my purpose, I confide. Walking in my purpose, can nobody stop me. Every single step, I'm becoming who I'm meant to be. Focused on my path, I'm the one, I'm the key. Living out my dreams, yeah, I'm walking in my destiny. Purpose is my guide, I won't be denied. With every stride, I feel alive. Overcoming, thriving, I won't hide. In my purpose, I confide.
All right, welcome. We are so glad you all are here today. Let's see, I'm gonna go back to the check-in. So if you have not checked in yet, please go ahead and do so. It's the way that we are tracking who is attending, and it's the data that we're collecting for the grant that is allowing us to have these workshops, and it's the data we'll use to go out and pursue additional funding in the future. So if you could check in, you can use the QR code, or somebody from my team. Yep, Wendy, thank you, Wendy. Wendy just dropped into the chat the actual link. So if you don't have access to a cell phone or your QR code is not working, please jump over to the chat and click on that link so you can check in. The check-in will also allow us to send you an email after the event today with, I actually have a job search checklist for you, as well as I'm going to reference some information and URLs, and all of that will be in the email you're going to get after the call today. So again, if you're just jumping on, please use this QR code or the link in the chat to check in. It'll just take you a minute. And what I would love to hear from you all is if you could open up the chat, which the chat is on the bottom of your screen, and it just will typically say chat, and you can open up that and you should be able to type in the chat. We're already starting some conversations. Hi, Kimberly, I see you. You are from Cleveland. I'm from Columbus. Go Bucks. So we have Ohio people on the line, Phoenix. I saw somebody from, I think it was, oh, yep, we have Casa Grande. Pinal County is actually sponsoring this program, and so we're going to see quite a few people from Pinal County on the line. Hi, Linda from Coconino. So great to see you. Linda is with Arizona at Work, Coconino County. So she is here to get some additional resources, but she's also a resource to anybody in that area as well. Katrina, hi from Mesa. Angela, good to see you. So again, drop in the chat, what's your name? Where are you joining us from? And then give us an idea on the industry that you're interested in. And hi, Abby, go Bucks. Thank you. And, you know, I think we have the Browns balance out the Bucks. That's what I always tell people. It's like diehard Buckeye and diehard Browns fan, but they're like, you know, they balance each other out. So, all right. So my name is Jessica Pierce, and I am the CEO and founder of Career Connectors. I will be training today. I'm so glad you all are here because today is the last day I will be teaching this workshop. We have been doing these workshops for a year, and today is the last day for the Job Search Essentials. We're looking and we're pursuing additional funding to continue the program, but we don't have that secured yet. And we will have different trainers and instructors teaching these workshops in the future. So I'm glad you're here. Today is the last time I'll be teaching this workshop, and I'm excited to share all of this content with you guys. So Career Connectors has been around for 16 years, and it started kind of by like a guess. It was not intentional. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a program. I didn't have anything. What I had was I had found an opportunity in the Great Recession of 2009, as I had been laid off. Actually, my business shut down, and my husband had been laid off 3 times in 6 months. And so in 2009, during the Great Recession, there weren't very many jobs out there. Our home was going into short sale and foreclosure, and we just didn't know what to do. We had been working since we were young, both of us around 14, 15 years old. And as we were sitting in our home that we loved so much, that we worked really hard on, but we're looking at our babies, who at the time were an infant, a 2-year-old, and a 10-year-old. We were like, what the heck are we going to do? And we didn't have answers. Everything we tried was not working out. And so we go to bed this one night in May of 2009, and I just started praying. And that next morning I woke up and I said to Mark, I know what I'm going to do. Mark's my husband. I know what I'm going to do. And he's like, okay, great. Because, the people that we owe the house mortgage to are calling every day. And I was like, I'm going to volunteer. He was like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. Something is pressed on my heart to help people write a resume. And so many people were getting laid off at that time. And I wasn't aware of the resources that were out there. I know there are many resources. I just didn't know of them at the time. And so I said, I'm just going to help people write resumes. So I called my local church and just said, hey, can I have a room in the back of the church on Monday nights? And they said, to help people write resumes. And they said, yes, because our phones are ringing off the hook. People are scared, don't know what to do. And we just aren't sure what to do about it. And so I started once a week meeting in the back of the room or back of the church. And we were bringing in around 25 people a week. I was asking some friends to help. And then this one day in July of 2009, I get a phone call. I had picked up a contract position, and I get a phone call and they say, Jessica, I don't know what you're doing, but there's a line around the church. The TV station is on its way, and the radio station has called. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so I said, all right, I'm on my way. And so I was able to move venues at the location we were at, but just in a different room. Over 300 people showed up that night. And we actually had invited an employer in, and they were doing volume hiring for a temporary contract position that was about a year long. And the guy stands up in the front of the room and he looks around and he says, I can hire all of you today. And I was like, I almost fainted in the back of the room. I'm like, what? And so that was the moment I'm like, okay, there's a need and we've got to figure this out because we've got to help people. And so I was not called to nonprofit work, or I was not trained up in nonprofit work. I didn't have a clue how to do a 501c3. I didn't know anything about a board. I knew nothing about, I didn't even know the word workforce. And so I just took one step in front of the other and started asking people for help and connecting. And now we have this organization that has served over 75,000 people. And the reason I tell this story, and I want you to hear it, is because I don't know your story today, but I imagine your story does not include not working or being laid off or getting terminated or looking for a job, or it doesn't include being in this spot and attending this webinar today. So whatever that looks like for you, know that you're going to be okay, first of all. Even if what you're hearing on the news and what you're hearing in all of these places is it's a terrible market, it's hard to get a job, I don't think you'll ever land, you'll not make as much money. I am telling you, you've got to tune out the noise and keep stepping forward, because the truth is there are jobs out there. There are really good jobs out there. And if you keep showing up and you keep connecting with your network and you get clarity on what you're looking for, then the right job opportunity at the right time will show up. And it might not look anything like what you expected. I can tell you now, 16 years later, I can tell you with truth and transparency that before my business closed, 2 years prior to that, I worked at Intel. I was there for 10 years, and our entire department got laid off. So that was the first time I had touched this kind of thing. And I can tell you that had I not gotten laid off in 2007, that 100% sure that this organization wouldn't exist. 100% sure. And I can also tell you that I am super grateful that I got laid off. Now, not then, now, because I would have never left. I liked the work I did. I got to travel. The pay was great. The benefits were great. I felt like I was making an impact in the work I got to do. I traveled the world all over, and I had a flexible schedule. I had all the things that looked right, that looked like, hey, that's a successful woman that's, taking care of her family. Like, I had all those things. So I would have never left. But I am so grateful that they decided to lay off 10,000 people that year. And our group got let go because it led me to here. And it led me to doing something that I feel has a purpose. So again, I'm telling you, because what your future looks like may look nothing like what your past. Maybe it looks exactly like your past. I'm not sure. But you just got to keep stepping forward. And so the fact that you've shown up and that you're here says that you're willing to do that work. So if you have not yet introduced yourself in the chat, please go ahead and do so. Tell us your name, where you're calling in from, and kind of like what the industry or job you're looking for. And I would love for everybody to think about one job issue you're having right now. One like thing that you feel stuck on, or one question you want answered. And one thing you could drop that in the chat, something you're struggling with. Drop that in the chat, because this workshop is an overview of job search essentials, what you must know going into the workforce, the job market. But some of the other workshops we've had, and we have 2 other ones left, are going to dive into some of the details. But I want to make sure that I'm addressing today the best I can some of the issues, some of the struggles you guys are having. So maybe it's creating a resume that connects well. Maybe it's networking. Maybe it's landing the interview. Maybe it's following up. But whatever you're struggling with, it might be identifying what your career looks like. Drop that in the chat as we're going through this first section here. So we are going to talk high level today. We will get into some of the tools and techniques, but again, this is a high level workshop. We're going to talk a little bit about the market and some of the trends that are out there right now. And then I'm going to ask you guys to do some stuff today that makes you think a little bit differently than maybe you have in the past. We're going to be thinking like a hiring manager. So we're going to get out of the, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job, I'm going to sell myself, sell. We're going to kind of step out of that mode and think, how can I connect? How can I think like a hiring manager so that I understand what they're looking for and they want to hire me? So we're going to that's what we're going to talk, the process we're going to talk through. And then the last hour, we're going to go into some of the job search tools. So we're career mapping, some on resumes, networking. So we're going to touch all these different areas, and we're going to go into just those topics a little bit today. Now, while we're jumping in here, what I would love for you all to do is to actually go get a piece of paper and a pen. And I am talking about a real piece of paper. I am talking about a real life pen, okay? Or pencil. So step away from your computer for a second, grab a piece of paper and a pen. And here is why I am asking you to do this. We're going to do some activities today. And sure, you could do them on your phone, but the significance of writing something down and the data showing how much you remember from writing something down as compared to just listening, or typing it into your phone is significant. How about you all guess in the chat if you are listening to a podcast or a webinar or just you're going to listen to my talk today? What do you think is the percentage from 0 to 100? What is the percentage on the information that you retain just from listening to the content of the workshop? 5%, 50%. Good. Who else? What are your other guesses? Audible. It's basically audible, right? Listening. How much do you remember? 20, 25, 10. Great. You guys, it's right around 15 to 20%. 15 to 20%. Now, what do you think is the retention rate when you write something down? Like I'm talking hand write it down, because the number is different when you type it in a phone. But what is it if you write it down on a piece of paper? What is the percentage and the retention rate? We're going to go from 10 to 15% retention to 80 to 85% retention. Good job, you guys. Some of you nailed that. 80 to 85% retention. So we're talking like 60% more retention just by writing it down. So I'm not going to have, obviously you can write any notes you want. You can take notes however you want, but there's going to be some activities we're going to do today that you need to remember, and writing them down will help you. Here's my goal for you, is for you to land the job that you like and that's meant for you. And so this is one of the ways we're going to do that. We're going to write some things down so you remember. So let's talk about the market. Market is running around, unemployment is running around 4.1%, depending on the month you look at. And here's what we're hearing in the media is that everyone's getting laid off. That's not the data, you guys. The data says it's 4 to 4.1%. which is a little bit up from last year. But since I've been doing this work, the unemployment rate nationally has been between about 3.7% and 4.2%. That in 16 years. The only blip, does anyone know what the blip was? Where did we skyrocket in unemployment? Someone tell me in the chat, what was in the last 16 years, what was the one thing that happened that we skyrocketed? Yes, COVID. That is only time that I've been doing this work that it's skyrocketed. So understand that different industries are hit differently at different times. But nationally, that's where the numbers lie. So if somebody is telling you, hey, it is really a hard time to get a job, everyone's getting laid off. Like, what are you going to do? You need to stop listening to that person, because that's not the data and that's not the truth. So the data tells us we're normal. This is normal. So we're running around 4.1% nationally. I want to talk a little bit about Arizona here, because again, this program is being sponsored by Arizona at Work, which is our state organization. Arizona at Work's our big state organization that manages all of our federal funding for workforce. And then Arizona at Work Pinal County is specifically sponsoring this because they were offering up these training sessions to all the residents in Pinal County. And Pinal County is a huge county out here in Arizona. And when we started doing in-person workshops, it was hard to get people to come because the county is so big. So they offered them virtually and said, hey, since we're offering them virtually, we're going to allow you guys to open them up and anyone can attend. So that's how we got here. And we're going to finish out the month of May with a couple more workshops. And so I'll talk about more of those at the end. But for Arizona, I want to talk specifically just for a couple minutes. We have seen an increase in layoffs. We have seen an increase. That doesn't mean the unemployment number has gone crazy. It's still at 4%. But, and it was at 3.8 last year. So it's gone up a little bit. But in Arizona, job growth will continue. About 500,000 new jobs by 2032 Our population continues to grow, which just shocks me because I've lived in Arizona now 27 years. And when I first moved here, it was all dairy farms. And so to see how everything has grown so substantially over the last 27 years, but to hear it is still growing, it blows my mind. And so we will see a slight increase in unemployment, specifically in Arizona, probably because of some of the layoffs that have happened. But again, this is not a doom and gloom message. This is a truth and reality message. It is not much different than it has been in the past. Over on the right-hand side, you can see specifically for Arizona, some of the industries that are growing. I would keep your eye on advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and then we have this kind of finance and insurance industry that's really big out here. We also have a transportation industry that is really big. And that if you live in Arizona, the West Valley has a lot of transportation coming in. Pinal County has some manufacturing coming in or here and coming in. So everywhere has healthcare. And so if you are here from outside of Arizona, you can go on to you can go onto the Department of Labor website and get this information. Sometimes that website is very difficult to navigate. And so if you type into Google or ChatGPT, you type in I'm going to put it in the chat, WIOA plus your state, let's say Iowa, I'll say that because that's where my husband's originally from. But if you type in WIOA plus your state, then you will be able to find the organization that likely oversees your funding for workforce. WIOA stands for Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act. That is the federal law that allocates funding to each of the states. And each state has a process and how that funding is utilized to serve people that are have been laid off or in career change or transition. And so most states will have a website with data like this. For us, it's the Arizona Commerce Authority is one of them. And then the other one is the OEO, Office of Economic Opportunity, Arizona OEO. So those are a couple websites. That information and those links will be included in the email you guys are going to get. So again, if you did not check in yet, you need to do that so you get all of those links in the chat or in the after the call. A couple other things I forgot to say at the beginning. One is we are recording this. You probably heard that when you jumped on the call. So what that means is when you get your follow-up email later, there will be a link to this webinar. So you can go back and play it, stop it, pause it at any time. We are not sending out the actual slides, but you'll have the link to the webinar. Also, if you have any questions today while I'm going through this stuff, please jump in the chat and ask. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as we go through this today. And so ask your questions in the chat. If I don't get to it right away, I'll leave a few minutes at the end to answer some of your questions. Okay, and so here's some unemployment information. And this is a ranking by the unemployment rate, kind of best place that has low unemployment to the most difficult and place where unemployment is really high. So you can see Arizona, we're in the middle. We're in the middle of the pack. States that have some of the best rankings have tons of jobs. South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska. I mean, is that any surprise? Those are states where there's a lot of land, there's jobs, but not a ton of people want to necessarily live up there because we don't like the cold. And so, but if you like the cold, I have a friend in Montana right now and she loves it, then that is a place you may want to consider. But then you're looking at states like Nevada, California, Illinois. Those states are on the worst ranking end. So if that's a state you live in, you understand you might be up against a little bit more difficulty. Maybe you're thinking about moving. Maybe you're looking at remote opportunities. And so this is just a guideline for you. Again, data is our friend. It's not to scare us. Okay, so some of the trends I want to touch on. First of all is, if you have not realized this yet, Gen Z, which is 1997 to 2013, those are the years they were born, Gen Z. Gen Z is fully in the workforce. They are making an impact, making a difference, maybe shaking things up a little bit, but 24% of our workforce right now is Gen Z. And by the end of the year, it'll be about 27%. So we see a really young workforce full in right now, and making an impact and making a difference. And so understand that that means you might be interviewed by somebody younger than you. The hiring manager may be younger than you. And we have to be able to adapt and relate to every generation in the workforce, 4 generations, every generation in the workforce right now. Then, if you're not familiar with this yet, AI, artificial intelligence, is making a huge impact into business. If you utilize AI, drop in the chat which platform that you like, what's your favorite one to use. But AI, artificial intelligence, is making a huge impact, and I am going to encourage every single one of you to utilize an AI tool such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. Any of those are good. The number one AI tool right now is ChatGPT, and I say number one, what I mean is most users. And you can use that to help you significantly in your job search. I'm going to touch on it here and there, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but seriously, it is the greatest tool for job search. There's some cautions, there's some things you got to watch, you got to make sure it gives you good data. But when I am sitting with businesses talking about the impact of AI on the workforce, every business has told me that it is significant in what they do. It is making a difference. And so don't be scared of it. For people that are new in AI, I tell them, think of it as just a different way to do a Google search. You're actually putting a question in and it's giving you information back. And as you get used to it, it gives you a lot better information. I use it as my number one search tool now. I rarely go to Google. And so utilize it, and because companies, that's a skill companies are expecting you to know when you come into the workforce. So I do a talk specifically on AI for workforce professionals that are working with job seekers. And so I do a talk about how to help, how to understand AI and how to use it in the job search, and how to work with clients and help people that are job searching. So just real quick, I want to go into this. If you're a Gen Xer like me, then maybe you remember the days of dial-up and AOL, right? Anyone there? So there was this time when we were young and we had to dial in to the internet. And there was this crazy sound. If you're Gen X, you're like, you know exactly the sound I'm talking about. I won't try it because I'll mess it up. But there's this sound and your phone would have to connect. And in those days, people would be like, that internet, we don't need the internet. Just go, walk over, talk to somebody, go see them in their cubicle, talk to them. Why do we need an internet? Seriously. That's what, when we were young, I was young, that's what people were saying. Well, obviously, the internet was a significant change to the way we did work. So many years later, then came social media. And people that didn't want to get on the internet were left behind. Like, it was not an option eventually. Like, they got left behind if they were not willing to adapt. And then we got into this thing called social media and posting online. And people were like, why do I need to know what you had for lunch? That Facebook thing. Why does it matter? And so people were like, nope, not going to do it. Not going to do social media. And now, almost a MySpace, Kevin, totally. MySpace. And remember, Kevin, like MySpace, get this, you guys, on MySpace, you ranked your friends from your favorite friend to number 10, your least favorite friend. And that was a whole disaster. If a friend changed spots, like you had to, like your friends were mad at you. I just can't, can you imagine ranking your friends now? It is, Lori, it was crazy. It would be like bullying, seriously. Like we were the initial bulliers, I guess, because we were ranking our friends. Top 8, yes, top 8. And Rebecca's like, I don't even know if I have 8 friends now. But like you ranked your friends, and it was a whole thing if one changed spots. So that was the launch of social media, right? And so social media now has changed so much of what we're doing and the way we do business. I'm hopeful all of you have a LinkedIn profile in some capacity, because that is the #1 job search tool. So we have the internet. People could not, you had to jump on board if you wanted to stay relevant. Then we had social media, which I would say you don't necessarily have to be posting and to be relevant, but you have to understand it. You have to be able to utilize it in some capacity, and it is an important tool. AI is the next thing. We're talking significant change. My opinion, I don't have data on this. My opinion is that AI will be even more significant than the internet. It is completely changing the way people do business. So you cannot say, I don't need that. You must start using it. And here's the thing, it's easier than learning the internet. It's easier than learning social media. It is as easy as doing a Google search. So if you are not using ChatGPT or a tool, you're going to be forced to eventually, but it's going to be one of those things that a company is going to be like, oh, you don't know AI? Then you're going to be left behind. And Lori will get into some examples of AI in a little bit. But ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, those are all really good ones to start with. But I'll give you some actual things you can put into some of those tools and some of the things you can say. So that is growing. The other thing that's happening is we know now, especially after COVID, significant rise in the remote workforce. And with the remote workforce, we're actually seeing that decline a little bit, and companies wanting employees to come in and work hybrid. So they want some face time. Maybe you have 1 or 2 days in the office and then you're working remote. So we're seeing a shift there. With still, there are fully remote jobs out there. Absolutely. Just the data is telling us that it's declining a little bit, but hybrid is increasing. And so sometimes it may be required for you to make a move for some jobs if a job you really, really want is requiring in-person or hybrid opportunities. And lastly, the other big trend we're seeing is there is a significant change to mental health in our workforce and how we address it and how companies address it and provide services and support. And so that's a positive thing. But those are 4 main workforce trends that we're seeing. So don't ignore them. They're all here. They're all here to stay. I do not care about your opinion. You should not care about my opinion, because that's the data. That's what's happening, and it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So that's some trends you need to look for. Now we're going to move on. Now that we have a baseline, okay, what are we looking at here? What's the job market look like? What's the workforce look like? Now that we have that baseline, we're going to jump over to the actual process a hiring manager goes through when they're hiring a candidate. Because I want you all thinking like a hiring manager. You're going to shift your focus from help me and I'm in job search to how do I get strategic? How do I get focused? And how do I get the hiring manager to realize I'm the right candidate for this job? And there is kind of a strategy to this. So we're going to talk about the process. What does recruiting look like in general, high level, not a deep dive into this, but a high level. Then we're going to talk about these 3 things. How you show hiring manager in a company that you're competent, that you have the right match from a character standpoint for the company, and that you have a chemistry, you have a likability to work with them. Those three things will get you to a place that's a culture match for them. And they're going to be like, oh, it's a no-brainer. That person's totally a culture match for us. So from a recruitment standpoint, every recruitment process looks different. So I run Career Connectors, and then I have a consulting business. And one of the things I do in my consulting business is I work with nonprofits and ministry churches, and I go in and I help them set up and oversee their recruiting. And I'm specific and strategic on who I work with, because typically it's not organizations that would know how to set up recruiting, how to set up hiring. It's not something they're really trained on. It's not something they do. And so I go in and help set this process up, and I show them how to recruit. And then sometimes I oversee all the hiring for them. And so every organization is a little bit different. But when they go to hire for somebody, they go through many, many steps. And that is why it may feel like to some of you that you're sending applications in, you're applying, but you're not getting anything back. It can get stopped, stuck, dropped anywhere along this way, this cycle. And Kevin, we're going to talk about the applicant tracking software and when we talk about resumes, more in that last hour. So we're going to specifically talk about that. So there's that the ATS is part of this system, and usually it's at the very top of the sourcing section. So understanding and identifying the job, they're posting the job, and then they're taking applications in the sourcing section, and that's where things start to either match or not match. And then if you're not matched, a lot of times you're just dropped and you're like, whatever happened to my application? Whatever happened to my resume? And so if you are mass applying on a job board like Indeed or Monster or any of the job boards, if you're mass applying, and basically what I mean by that is going in and just apply, or you're checking all the things and hitting apply and you're sending 10 at a time, the likelihood that you're ever going to hear back from any of those when you mass apply like that is like 5%, maybe. The likelihood is just so low. So I want to get you on the other side of that, where your likelihood goes up significantly to hearing back from a company. And it does not include mass applying ever to any job. So let's talk about the competence. When a company is hiring, the very first thing they look at when they're considering candidates is, can you do this job? Do you have the experience? Do you have the skill set? And do you have the needed training for this job? Are you able to do this job? And where they identify this information is in the job description. And you're like, of course they do, Jessica. Hello, duh. Well, here's what happens. When people look at the job description on a job board, they may see project manager go, oh, I'm qualified, and they'll just submit, because they're like, if I just submit to everything, then one of them will hit. And that is exactly the opposite of how you should be doing this. It's real interesting how the more applications you send in, that your chances of getting contacted go down significantly. But the more time and energy you spend and connections you make, energy you spend updating of your resume, and you are qualified and you apply for that job specifically, the likelihood of you getting contacted increases significantly. I don't have the numbers, but it is significant. So what I mean by that is when you look at a job description like this one, you need to read through it. And this is obviously a very short job description, does not have a lot of details, but I just wanted you to be able to read it and have it on one page. So you look through this job description and you think, I'm about an 80%, 90% match to this job. And you do a little researching. Who is this company? You do a little researching. I can't, Lori, I'm sorry. But you could look at any job description. She asked if I could enlarge it. You could look at any job description as a sample, but you look at this and you go, okay, I'm 80 to 90% qualified for this job. I'm going for it. And then you take steps to do the research about the company, see if you have any connections, update your resume. So you get super focused on this job. Super focused on this job. So that's what I want you guys to be thinking about when it comes to, am I a fit for the company? So first of all, the skills. Do I have the skills? The job requirements are on there. They're almost always listed on there. The job responsibilities and the skill sets that are required. They're almost always listed on there. So you need to find those and say, do I have those qualifications? Are there some technical capabilities that I need? And do I have those? And if I don't, is this something I can go learn? A great example of that is maybe you are a project manager or a project coordinator. I saw somebody as a project coordinator on here. Maybe you're a project coordinator and you have used a system like Asana or Sage or Microsoft Project. You've used some project management system. But the job description is asking for experience in project management systems, but it doesn't list those. It lists something else, Monday.com, or there's a whole bunch. You're like, okay, let me go look. All you have to do is a quick search on ChatGPT or Google and say, well, ChatGPT, here is an excellent prompt for ChatGPT in this example. You could go to ChatGPT and you could say, let's compare Microsoft Project to, what did I just say? Microsoft to Monday.com. Okay, so you go into ChatGPT and you say, can you tell me the differences between this software and Monday.com? Tell me, I'm applying for a new job and they have Monday.com as a CRM or a project management system. And I'm familiar with Asana and I'm familiar with Microsoft Office Project. And what ChatGPT will do is it will spit out and it will put all of the things that are similar or different. So you can go, oh, that's easy. And you can even jump on to Monday.com and use the trial version and see if you can use it. And so all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got this. And so that makes your skill set, like that's another step in the right direction. And you're good with it. You can put it in there that you have trained on it, that you've learned it, you know it, however you want to put that on your resume. But it shows that you have the technical capabilities. So whatever the capabilities are, sorry, I'm just taking I will get back to you on who sent me that direct message. Okay, so what I will, you'll just want to make sure that whatever skills you have and the ones they're requiring, that you are really searching and making sure you're a fit. And again, that has nothing to do with mass applying. That is looking exactly at the job description. Then you want to think about your experience, the type of jobs you've had. Does your experience, does it show a match? Maybe it does, but maybe it's not showing it on your resume, the exact match. And so you need to then update your resume. You don't have to do a full-blown thing, but you do need to update your resume for every single job so that the verbiage, the language, the experience relates, and it shows that you do have the experience for that position. And when you're talking about experience, this can be, of course, full-time jobs, part-time jobs, that it can be volunteer jobs. So I have this amazing volunteer. Her name is Linda. And she came to me a couple months ago And she's like, I'd love to volunteer for your organization. And I was like, great, thank you so much. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do? And so she's like, I'm in training and development. I've done some online platforms. I oversee training development teams. I do a lot with culture. So we had this great conversation. And I said, oh, yes. I go, oh, perfect timing. We are working on this career coaching platform, and we're not really sure how to get the technology, how to put the information in the technology. Like, I have the experts, we've done the trainings, we've done all the worksheets, we've done all the activities. Like, I have that down. I've worked with all the right people. But this, how to use the technology, how to create an online experience, we're trying to figure that out. And she goes, I would love to do that for you. So we worked together for about a month and a half, and she did all the technology. She did it, oh my gosh, so much better than we could have ever done it. She had years and years and years and years of experience. So she does this. And then as we're working together, we're talking and getting to know. And I said, one of my board members, her name is Christy, and she's the president of this organization called Know Your Talents. And I think you should talk to her. Like, I think you guys are, would be really connected. And she's like, oh my gosh, I just was looking her up because I applied for a job at Know Your Talents, and it is my dream job. Like, it is more than I could have ever dreamed of. And I was like, oh, awesome. Well, I would love to introduce you to Christy. And she said, okay. So made the quick intro, just a LinkedIn message. And then Christy called me a couple weeks after that, and she said, hey, we are considering hiring Linda, and tell me about your experience with her. And I'll tell you guys, I gloated on her because, like, she's amazing. And I just went on and on and on about how she put her full heart into this project, and it was all volunteer, and I went on and on. She offered her that job opportunity for more money, a better job, her dream job than she had before she was even laid off. And so that volunteer experience, I'm not saying the volunteer experience was the only thing, right? She had work history. She knew, but Christy's question to me was, how does she work with people? How does she integrate? And so I was able to actually speak to that because she was going into more of a relationship management type of role. So your volunteer experience matters. Many times volunteer experience is, can be a lot more than a job. And maybe you're super passionate about it. So include those on your resume, and include, of course, any kind of internships, externships that you have. For experience, we'll get into specific resume stuff in a little bit, Anne, but for specific experience, you're going to want to go 10-ish to 15-ish years. We're having a monthly resume workshop like this, taught by the wonderful Lori. And if you did not get to attend any of our resume workshops, again, if you didn't hear, this program is coming to an end at the end of the month, but we have a portal, all of these workshops online. And so you can listen to that resume workshop, and Lori goes into detail around what should be included on your resume and how far back and why. So that's a great resource. It will be included in the links that come out to you guys after the call today. So with education, of course, you want to include your schooling, degrees, anything like that. And then any kind of certification. So to step back into my project coordinator, project manager conversation example a little bit ago, if this job says there's a certification preferred for Monday.com, go and see, is it possible for you to get the certification? You already know systems and databases maybe, and project management software, and maybe it's free. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is. So go out, and if you need a certification that you're lacking, go get it. Sometimes it's just an afternoon, or it's just a test. So go see what kind of training and certification you may need. There's a lot of AI training happening right now. And so you can go online and you can get the AI training that you need by taking a couple courses and get that on your resume, because those kind of things say you're current and you're relevant and you have been staying active. Because AI is many, many years old. There are people that are 10, 15 years that have been using AI. But for the majority of us, AI is still fairly new. I've been using it for a year and a half. So it's still a fairly new concept. And so if you put it on your resume, it says that I am current, that I know how to use these tools. So training is essential. So remember that piece of paper we talked about? I want you to pull that out. Pull out that piece of paper and the pen that we talked about a little bit ago. And what I want you to think right now is, first of all, put into your brain your kind of maybe ideal job, if you have one. So some of you are like, oh, I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm shifting or I'm taking a turn. But put in your brain your ideal opportunity. Is there anything with that ideal opportunity that you feel like you're missing? Is there anything that maybe you need to go back for training on? Or that can beef up your resume? Do you need to do some social media? Do you need to brand yourself? Is there something you either need to do to kind of get more experience, be more competent in that role? So that's one question. The other question I have, if you're like, no, I'm pretty well established in my, what I do in my experience. So it's either, do you have something you need to go learn, a new system, a new tool, something you need to go do? Or is it, do you need to maybe get out there and tell people what you're doing? So, or maybe you don't have your all of your accomplishments listed out. Or maybe you need to go volunteer to get more experience in an area. So I want you to write down on your paper right now something that you need to do in the next, let's say by Friday. We're only on Tuesday, right? By Friday, something you need to do to take a step forward in the competence space. Do you need to go look to see what kind of training is out there for some gap you have? Do you need to go out and maybe raise your hand for a speaking opportunity? Maybe you need to go out and post some stuff on LinkedIn and social media about your expertise. What is something you need to do that will help you take a big step in the competence space? So write that down on your piece of paper. And I'm going to give you one more minute to kind of go through that. So I'm going to be quiet, just really think through this. I'll give you a minute here. Oh, Anne, I love that. Absolutely. So she's working on a certification in AI right now. That makes you so relevant. Absolutely put it on your resume, and you can even put comma completion date with the date if you'd like. But listing it out there, absolutely. Kevin, I'm not sure what your question is, if you want to rewrite it. So yeah, great job. I love that one. Okay, so now that you have something written down, drop it over in the chat. Drop. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Lou. Yeah, what AI certification? So Anna's doing a big certification in AI. It'll take her about another month and a half. And she wants to know if she can include that on her resume, and absolutely she can. Would love Anne to know what that certification is. That's what some people are asking in the chat. And so if you have an idea, but there's what's the AI? there's an AI online training school that has a ton of certifications and so many different AI products. So she said CPMAI through Cognilytica. Sorry, Anne, if I'm missing that. Oh, but it's going to be available through PMI soon. So that's awesome. Thank you for that, Anne. So if AI is an area you want to become a little bit more expert in, you want to really understand it, then Google search that, take a look in the chat. Okay, so that is competence, you guys. So now let's talk about character. How do you know that you're going to be a good match for this company from a character standpoint? One, do you know yourself? Do you know what you're looking for, who you are, and do you know what type of company you're looking for and who they are? And we want those two to be a match. So for example, do you know yourself? Do you know your behavior traits? Do you know, where your strengths are and where maybe your strengths are? So you want to look at that, and then you want to, after you kind of know what your strengths are and what you're looking for, then you get a chance to dive into the company's website, social media, job boards to understand, hey, could I be a match here? Could this be a good thing? So let me give you some examples on what that means. So first of all, if you're thinking through, here are some examples. If you're thinking through, what are the traits that I have? You can call them values, but what are the things that I care about? What are the things that matter to me? What kind of company do I want to work for that is a match for me? Do I want to work for a company that is courageous and adventurous and goes out and is solving problems and on the front end? Or would I prefer to work for a company who is like highly responsible, dependable, you can rely on them? Those are two different types of companies. So what kind of company? Do you want one that's maybe a nonprofit making a difference in the community? Or do you want maybe somebody supporting an organization that is making products that make our world better or more the technology is new and up and coming, like AI and what they're doing? Do you want a service-oriented company? Does it matter that you're friends with the people you work with? Like, what kind of company do you want to work with? And one of the ways that you can start to, kind of understand who you are is through some assessments. Now, if you were at Career Connectors last week, we brought in somebody that gave us a free strengths assessment. And so you were able to take that and really understand who I am, what are my strengths. And if you did not get a chance to take that, the free trial week has ended. They do it once a year. They do a strengths week and they offer it to anyone who's at Career Connectors. If you didn't get that, then you can take the DISC assessment, which is also another great tool. This is free. And this will kind of give you an idea of your style, your behavior style. But these 2 pages in the assessment are 2 of my favorite pages, the ones on the right here. One is, what is your ideal work environment? What kind of organization or team do you want to work on? For this person, they want to work with a team, but a team that is getting results, and they want to work with a lot of people. And they want to work with somebody who they can associate with, but they don't want to be controlled. Okay, that's their ideal environment. But their value, what they bring to the company, is that they're people oriented, they're creative in their problem solving, they're a builder up, they think big. So when you are looking for companies to work for, you want to see if this is the kind of organization that would be a good fit for you. Because if you're looking at a company and you're noticing that it says things like extremely detailed, full-time in the office, cubicle work, things like that, then this person is going to go, that's probably not a type of company that I want to work for. You really want to see how are they a match. And so when you're thinking about this and you're thinking about the skills that you have and what you're looking for, so you have that tool, the DISC, which by the way, we're going to give you the DISC assessment link after this call, and you can go click on that. It'll take you 10-15 minutes, and you're going to get a 25-page report for free. Thank you, Target Training International. But they're going to, that's our sponsor on that. But they're going to give you a 25-page assessment that tells you all about yourself, including those 2 pages. And it'll include some soft skills stuff, because these soft skills that you're seeing on the screen right now are the top 10 desired soft skills in the workplace right now. And so how are you in these areas? And not only that, one of them that is not on here that I know is going to be towards the top soon is the ability to analyze and understand information. The reason it's up and coming is because this is what AI is. AI is the ability to put questions in, put information into a tool, and it spits out content. The skill is being able to read that content, understand it, and interpret it. So sometimes data visualization, yes. Thank you, Anne. I'm sure that's the actual word. I'm gonna write that down because you're the one going through the certification. So data visualization, I've never heard that. Thank you so much, Anne. See, look at the high amount of information you just gave me and the value you brought to me, Anne. Thank you so much. And so I'm gonna bring that back up in a little bit when we talk about networking and creating value. But that skill set, data visualization, and that skill set is rising quickly. And so being able to understand what comes out of these AI tools and saying, hey, this looks great, but this part isn't exactly right. And I need to we need to do some modifications, or what I got back, it's not going to work. And it's not going to work for our systems, our processes, and whatever. So it's really important that you make sure to have these skills integrated into your system and your processes. Are you good at communicating or no? Then figure out how to go get some soft skills training. Gen Z, if I have anyone from Gen Z on the line right now, I want to tell you the perception out there in the marketplace is you don't know how to communicate well. I am not saying you don't know how to communicate well. I am saying as a generation, that's the perception. So when I meet somebody that is Gen Z and they can look me in the eyes, shake my hand, and have a conversation, it's always like, yes, like this is a good one. So if that's something you struggle with, make sure you work it out. You're able to communicate. All right. And you're right, Lori, some people just do not work well under pressure. And if you do not work, if somebody on the line does not work well under pressure, then you want to make sure you're looking and targeting companies that are not going to require that. Or you go get some training and figure out how to make that better. And you have some tools on how to stay calm and how to work under pressure and how to work under time management. It's just about knowing yourself. You don't have to be a different person. And so then you have some technical and professional skills. So technical, here's just some examples. You can read through these. These are the top skills for technical skills out there and for professional skills. And then we're going to add data visualization because that one's not on there. And that's the one I'm talking about that's coming. And Anne, thank you for your comments in the chat. Okay, so I think this is interesting. When you look at technical skills, there's a lot over there. And I thought, for sure, I'm not a techie. I don't have any technical skills. But when you start looking at it, you're like, oh, Microsoft Office. Oh, how to work a cash register through a cloud system. How to maybe put together a graphic. How to work in a database. All of those count. Those are all technical skills. How to do Google Analytics, Microsoft project, all of those are technical skills and can be included on your resume. And then on the right-hand side are professional skills. And so if you can build these professional skills into your resume somehow, and I'm not talking about just a list of professional skills, because that's not what we want, but if you can integrate it into your accomplishment statements, then that is going to be beneficial to you. So those are the skills. Now, Jessica, where do I go find what a company wants? Where do I look? Well, one is their website. So I love this example for this company. Achieve is a company, it's based out here in Arizona. They have, actually the corporate headquarters is in California, but their majority of their staff are here. And I know the VP of HR, and I remember probably about 10 years ago when she was hired, and her job was to basically build up this facility and hire like 2,000 people. And so when they were doing this, they were trying to figure out what kind of company. And I remember her saying to me, Jessica, now that I'm in this role, I want to create a best place to work. I don't want to just hire a whole bunch of people. I want to create this culture. And so that's what they set out to do. And they have won the most admired company, best places to work multiple times over since. Now, this company, I'm going to give you a couple words. And I know we all have a preconceived notion, or maybe we've experienced this kind of company. Achieve is a call center. Achieve is a debt collection company. Two things that most people are like, I'm not working in a company like that. However, what they have done is created a space that allows people to be who they are, very flexible, good compensation. But one of the things I find so interesting is when you think of a call center or a debt collection company. I know when I went through the Great Recession that we were getting calls from the bank to pay our mortgage. And I was like, but you told us not to pay our mortgage, because if we paid our mortgage, then we wouldn't be qualified to short sell. And they would like, yes, that's true. And I said, so which is it? Pay our mortgage or don't pay our mortgage? And he goes, every day, don't pay your mortgage or you're not going to be able to qualify for this program. But we're going to continue to call you every day to ask for payment. And I just was like, what land am I living in? Like, do you want us to pay our mortgage or not? And so it was these constant call centers that were calling me, and they were not nice. And it was a tough time. And so I have that in my brain whenever I hear debt collection or call center. But if you look at the call center people that Achieve hires, yes, Kevin, that's right. Thank you for that comment. Kevin's commenting in the chat about why they were calling us every day. And yeah, everyone was experienced that went through any kind of short sale. But what Achieve looks for is empathetic problem solvers. I thought, that's who they're hiring for their sales team? Empathetic problem solvers. And so I said to Linda, who's the VP over there, tell me more about this. And she said, listen, when somebody is going through some of the worst moments of their life, they don't have, they're in significant debt. And our job is to help them figure out what to do and how to get out of the situation. And the only way we can do that is by hiring people that care and that are good at solving problems. Because there's a whole bunch of solutions when you get into that space. There's a whole bunch of solutions, all the way from, creating a budget, putting things in line, and just doing roll the debt and pay. Or, you can move into like negotiation with debtors, or you can maybe refinance a mortgage. Like, there are options. And when people get into significant debt, they feel like everything's overwhelming and there's no options. So what they do is they hire empathetic problem solvers, people that can walk alongside of somebody who is in significant debt and help them get out of debt. I love that because that might be a debt collection or call center company that you want to work with. But it has to be a lot, but they do not hire hardcore salespeople. It doesn't work for them. In fact, most of their salespeople have never been in sales before. So if you are you're going to dial for dollars and make 100 calls a day and close 5%, this is not the company for you. There's a lot of companies out there for you, but not this one. That's why I'm saying you want to understand the character behind the company. What are they about? What do they do? You can also go to their social media. You can take a look at their social media, and there are usually stories out there. I love YouTube for this. YouTube, you can go out to their YouTube page and you can see what kind of products they have, what kind of people work there, what kind of employee resource groups are there. You can learn so much about a company on their social media, what are the things they care about. And so that's what I want you to do. I hope you're hearing that applying for a job is not about submitting 100 resumes a day. In fact, if you submit 1 to 2 resumes a day, big, huge win. Because the time it takes to dive in and make sure this is the company you want to work for and modify your resume to match it, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to modify your resume. It's going to take time to do the research. It's going to take time to make sure this is a company you want to work for. It's going to take time to make some connections on LinkedIn, or find out within your network if you know anyone at the company. It's going to take some time. But if you change your frame of reference for job searching from apply, or kind of like, so I don't know if any of you guys do this, but one of the things my husband taught me, he's from Iowa, I'm from Ohio, but one of the things he taught me when we were newly married, I was making pasta for dinner, and he said, I was like, gosh, are the noodles done? And he's like, throw it against the wall. And I was like, throw it against the wall? He goes, yeah, if it sticks, it's done. If it falls off, it's not done. I'm like, what? So literally our whole life, our kids now are 16, 18, and 26. When we make pasta, spaghetti specifically, all of us throw it against the wall. And if it sticks, we're like, the pasta's ready. So that is not how you job search. You do not throw it against the wall. You do not submit to see what sticks. No, it doesn't work. Rebecca, that's so funny. That's how you learn too? Yes, it works for pasta. It doesn't work for job search. In fact, Kevin wants to know who's cleaning it. We're cleaning it, but sometimes it gets stuck up there. And this is way too much information. We have allowed pasta to stick on the wall for way too long. Let's just say we've had people over and been like, what's on your wall? We're like, oh, it's way too high. We didn't get it down. So we have a little fun factor in our family that way. But so we're not for everyone. Performance art, yes, we're not for everybody. But your job search is not about throwing it and see it'll stick. It is a targeted strategy. And I promise, I'm looking like right in the camera. I promise it works when you do the strategy, when you do the things we're talking about here. And so the other place you should go to look to see what's out there, are job boards. Of course. Job boards are a fantastic search tool. You should be able to go in and find job boards and look around and say, hey, that's a job. I didn't even think about that job. Like, you can search and search and search and search. In fact, one of the things I encourage you to do is go on to ChatGPT. In fact, let me see if I can make this work right now, you guys. I'm kind of going off the cuff. I'm going to do something a little different to see if we can make this work. I'm going to do a search in ChatGPT. So let me see if I can share my other screen real quick. Okay, so I'm going to have to unshare and then I'm going to reshare because I have to share my other screen. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this should now show you guys screen 2. Can somebody put in the chat if you are seeing my screen 2 right now, which is Chat GPT? Yes, thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is somebody drop in the chat right now your job type or your industry. Rebecca, you're seeing my family picture? Okay. Let's see. You're seeing my family. Okay. What I'm gonna do then is I'm going to move over to the other, my Chat GPT. Okay. Can you guys see it now? Chat GPT? Thank you. That was our Christmas picture. My son was in town from Charleston. Okay. So this is somebody drop in the chat your job title or your industry. Okay. Case manager was the first one that came up. Okay, so Lori, this is Chat GPT. For any of you that don't know what an AI tool looks like, this is it. On the left-hand side over here, I have what are called projects, basically my threads. I have lots of questions. I ask a lot of things about, I have a speaking business. I do a ton of speaking, so that's that one. Personal stuff, of course. I have, Chandler Fun Float. We actually rent out our pool in our backyard for parties. And so I have a thread for that. And then career connectors, of course. And so I have different threads for different things. And so, but you can build that out over time. You can have one just for resumes. You can have one for job search. You can have all these different things over here. So what I'm going to do is Lori said case management, I believe. So I'm going to type in, okay, AI, can you give me a list of 10 job boards that are specific to the case management industry? Let's see if it has some options for us. So here we go. There's a CMSA Career Center, Case Management Society of America, National Association of Social Work, Career Link, American Case Management Association. So all of these are what I would call niche job boards. Not all of them, because like government jobs, but they're going to list a lot of case management jobs there. And so, and of course, LinkedIn. But you can see if you ask it for specific information, what I love about ChatGPT is it actually gives you what you're asking for most of the time, instead of where Google, you're searching through ads, you're trying to get the information, you have to do a lot of searching. I saw next one, account specialist. So can you give me a list of 10 job boards specific to account specialists? So I don't know if this one will, let's see what we have here. It can span several different industries. And so this one's more generic because account specialist is kind of a generic. I would need more of an industry. So let me, job for someone who's IT project management. Okay, I asked for a list of jobs for someone who is studying nursing. Okay, can you give me a list of job boards or, let's say of jobs for someone who is studying nursing? Now, this is an interesting question because you would expect if they're studying nursing, they're going to be an RN, but there's actually other options. So let's see what ChatGPT says. There are many different opportunities for someone who's in nursing. So of course, clinical jobs, right? And then CNAs, medical assistants, phlebotomists, and so on. Those are on the top are the clinical jobs. But then it says here are also some support roles you could look into. And then also, how about remote jobs? Here are some opportunities here. And so it's so good because the research with ChatGPT is fantastic. So when I'm telling you about these job boards, the research for the job boards is fantastic. But when you go to apply for the job, do everything you can to find the company name and to apply directly on their website. And that helps with a couple things. It helps to confirm that it's not a spam job, because unfortunately we're dealing with that. I have a LinkedIn post from last week might be 2 weeks ago now, that talks specifically about scams and how to avoid them. And one of the ways to avoid them is to go directly to the website. So again, research like crazy on job boards, but apply directly on the company site. And if they won't give you the information, likely a scam job, or it's maybe a staffing firm. But the staffing firm would then tell you what you can look up the staffing firm and go directly to the staffing firm page and apply there. So always, as much as possible, go to the job board or go to the company. I would say the only real exception to that is LinkedIn. You can absolutely apply directly on LinkedIn, but again, even still, LinkedIn is starting to get more inundated with scam jobs. I did not even realize that until about a month ago when somebody messaged me in one of these workshops and said that they've been getting a lot of scam jobs, and I did some research and that was validated. Was happening. So again, research, apply directly on their website. And if it is a good, well-known company, you could apply on LinkedIn. The reason I love LinkedIn to apply is because you can often see who posted the job, and then you can reach out to them. Okay, so now we're going to probably come back to ChatGPT because it's really hard for me to teach a session, and I'm sorry you're seeing my family again. Okay, so here we are back to job boards. So again, use them, but research the right job boards and then just use it for research. So what I want you to do now is I'm going to give you another think. I want you to write some things down. So again, we're back to paper and pencil, paper and pen, back to paper and pen. So what I want you to think about now is what is the type of company that you want to work for? So I walked you through for the last half hour, 45 minutes, I walked you through the types of behavior traits and where you can go to look for this stuff. What kind of things can you do to really figure out either your style, what are your values, what are your behavior traits, what are your top soft skills, like figure that out. And then also, or if you already know that, what are some things you can do to find out companies that are a match for you based on your traits? So write down at least one thing you can do to either figure out yourself a little bit or find some companies or do some research on companies you already know. And that could be, you know, doing the disc like I talked about, doing some research on social media accounts, reviewing Glassdoor, that's another option, finding some niche job boards, learning ChatGPT. So write down on paper and pen the one thing you would do. Give you a minute here. All right, so good. So go ahead and write it in the chat. What's one thing you can do? Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Love that, Renee. Look at job boards, ask ChatGPT. Great. Job boards, great. All right, so that's the character side, you guys. Now, we're going to talk about networking, Kevin. Kevin, you've been in my sessions before in another one. You know, I talk about I can't do one without talking about networking, so it's coming. Talk to the people who work at the. Oh yes, Miss Cat. Talk to the people who work at the company you want to work at in the position you want. Like, if you can do that, yes, absolutely. That is networking. That is relationship building. It is the best, the number one tool to use to land the best job. All right, so now we're going to talk about chemistry. Now, that sounds weird when you talk about jobs, like you have to have chemistry. Well, I'm not talking about like dating. I'm not talking about that kind of chemistry or that kind of app. I am talking about the kind of chemistry that says, when we're interviewing you, do we like you? And do we want to work with you? Because people hire people that they want, that they like. People hire people that they know and that they like. And if you're like, but I'm qualified for the job. Okay, great. But do they like you? Do they want to work with you? That is what the interview is about. So people that come and talk to me and that I sit with and I coach, or we go through different things, and they're like, I get interviews. I have had, 7 interviews, and I just can't make it through the first interview. Well, something is going on with your ability to connect with the interviewers. So that's what I mean when I say connection, chemistry. So for those of us that struggle in that area and struggle in the likability, struggle in the connection piece, there are some tools we can use to be more essentially likable. Now, I'm not asking you to fake it and change your personality. I honestly think fake it till you make it is the worst advice I've ever had in the history of my life, because for 10 years, that's what I tried to do. Fake it till I make it, because that's what was ingrained in my brain for so many years. And I had to unwind that and actually learn that being authentic and real is way better than fake it till you make it. So I'm not trying to say change who you are. I am saying that you just need to do a couple things that will help you make the connection. Fake it until you become it. Okay, some people live that way as well. And that is, if that works for you, Rebecca, awesome. What I learned is fake it till you make it for me was just not, it wasn't me. And so, but if that works, sometimes people need to see it and go after it. And I think that's probably what you're talking about. Go after how you can see yourself becoming. So with the interview, the time and the place where you can really make the connection and have the chemistry. It's the only place, really. I mean, you can do a little bit through email and through social media, but the interview, when you meet people. So before you even go in, you're going to do the research. So to use this as an example, oh, Rebecca says I faked it until I lost myself. I hear that. That's exactly, I hear you. Somebody put in the chat right now, 1 or 2 companies that you're like, these guys are on my list. Like, I really want to work with them. Does anyone have a connection? Like what is 1 or 2 companies that you are like, yes, that's a company that has a great job that I would love to work for? Okay, Donica, I'm going to utilize you as an example. Okay, so Donica is sitting on this webinar right now, engaging. She has a beautiful smile. She's ready to go, and she's learning, and she's writing stuff down. And she knows Delta is on her list. Like, she's applying, she's ready to go. She wants to work for Delta. It's one of her top companies. And she's right now in this webinar. She's researched them before, so you don't even have to, if she got that interview, it'd be awesome. She's in the webinar and her phone rings and she looks over, and on her phone, as she's in the webinar, she picks it up and it says Delta. Oh, Donica, I bet you are shutting your computer and picking up the call. Stepping away, doing everything you can to take the call from, you are so happy right now. Delta is calling. That feeling, that moment is how I want you to feel every time someone is calling you or emailing you for an interview. And the way that you do that is by researching companies before you apply, so that when Delta does call and you're like, okay, gotta put my best face on. Hi, this is Donica. Can I help you? Like, you're answering, and they're like, hey, Donica. I hope I'm saying your name right, Donica. We saw your resume. We'd like to do come in for an interview. And you're like, guess what? My whole week just opened up. Yes, I would be thrilled to come in for an interview. That sounds great. Yes. What can I bring? Whatever. So you scheduled an interview. That experience right there tells the company she is excited to work for you. Now let's take another example. Generic phone number comes up on the phone. I don't know who it is. Send to voicemail. Then you hear the voicemail and it's like, hey, Donica, this is whoever, another company. And we saw your resume and we'd like to interview you. And she's like, oh, I have no idea what company this is. I don't know the job, but I'm going to call him back. So calls him back. Hi, this is Donica. And she's polite. And now can you tell me, I'm sorry, can you tell me what job that was? What's your company again? I'd like to do some research, right? So she's like asking some questions and she, of course, does the interview. She's happy to do it. But the connection to that company compared to Delta, completely different. And so when you are targeting your job search, companies know if you want to be there or not. Companies know from the minute that you answer the phone or answer an email, they know like, oh, this person wants to be here or they don't. So you want to walk from the initial phone call to walking into that interview. You want to be excited. And I'm not talking about, I can get super excited and wave my hands. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm just saying like, you're happy to be there and you want this job. That is how chemistry happens, even for those people that do not get super excited about stuff, that are more like, steady plodding kind of people, that are more chill and relaxed, right? Not everyone has to be like, but the people but you're going to make the connection if you know the company and want that job. And so when you walk into the interview, so you're going to do all this ahead of time, research the company, know your resume, you're going to have your notes ready to go. And then during the interview is when you're going to really make the impression, right? Because you're going to be connecting with everybody. You're going to smile, excited to be there, engage with everyone, ask questions. So all of that is important. And though we don't have time today, I am teaching a deep dive interview workshop next week. And the way you nail the interview is by having your stories and your accomplishments ready to go. And in the interview workshop next week, it's the last one I'm teaching, again, with this grant ending. I'm going to teach you and walk you through a process of how to go into that interview with 10 stories, 10 answers, interview answers, essentially ready to go. And that way you're not memorizing interview questions. You don't need to. Instead, you pull your stories together, you know about yourself, and that's going to make a connection because you're going to give the best answers to whatever questions they ask you. So you're going to have those questions, you're going to have your notes prepared, you're going to have your stories ready to go. And in the interview, you're going to make a really good first impression. You're going to engage with everyone. And then afterwards, you're going to follow up. And I'm hopeful that the follow-up or the connection on LinkedIn can happen ahead of time, but sometimes it's after. Okay, so let's talk about it at the interview. Lori, no. The question is that workshop on 5/15? No, we do not have a workshop on 5/15. I'm going to talk about it at the end, but 28th, I believe. 28th is the interview workshop and 29th is the salary negotiation workshop. The last two we're doing. We do have a career fair also on the 22nd that I'm going to talk about later. So at the interview, when you walk in, you are going to give a stellar first impression, because a lot of hiring decisions often are made within the first 2 minutes. Doesn't that stink? You're like, what? That's not even fair. But again, it's the likability factor. Do I like you and can I work with you? That is the first impression. Think about how much time we spend with the people we work with. If you're in the office, it could be 40 hours plus. If you're remote, maybe it's not that much, but when you have that one-on-one meeting with that person that drives you crazy, you just want to go back to bed. You're like, oh, these meetings are so hard, right? Well, they're looking to hire people that don't need to have those hard meetings all the time, that they actually are like, I was so excited to talk to you today. And, every week you're meeting and they're excited to work with you. They want to work with you. You have the information they need. You're solving their problems. You're the one they want to work with. That's why the chemistry matters. So it's a great first impression. It's, you got to do a handshake. You got to look them in the eyes. You got to do it. Handshake, look them in the eyes. And that's why I specifically called out Gen Z when I came in, because my kids, my youngest specifically, 16, 18, my 18-year-old started high school when COVID was full on. And so she went to her freshman year of high school and started it online. First semester. Second semester, when school started opening up, she goes into the classroom. They're all wearing masks. They're 6 feet apart. So her entire freshman year, no engagement with building friendships. Now, I don't know about any of you, and maybe you can tell me in the chat, but I still know and am friends with some of my high school friends. Like that, those development years are so important to the success of high schoolers. And so these kids that came in during that time, and I say these kids, again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, because they're my kids' age, but people that are in Gen Z that are in the workforce now, they dealt with all of this. And so it may not come natural for a handshake, right? They were told, don't touch anyone. We do knuckle bumps now. No, that's over. We handshake. We look people in the eyes. We smile. We engage. That is how we do this. As a professional in the workforce. So when you're at the interview, this is what you do. You engage with every single person in the interview. And then this one is so important. I can't tell you how many people lose the job because of this. So I have, I don't know, this is just what I call it, mirror initial response. You may hear it different ways. I don't hear actually a lot of people talk about this, but I do so many interviews and I've seen so many people get disqualified for this. So what I mean by mirror the initial response, if you're walking into an interview and maybe they greet you and you're walking down a hallway going to a conference room and they're asking you, how was the drive? Oh my gosh, isn't it getting hot now? If you're in Arizona, or this weather's terrible, or whatever. That small talk, right? I am terrible at small talk and so bad at it. And so it's hard for me. I need a purpose and a reason to be talking to somebody. It's just, listen, I married a therapist. He can talk to anyone, any day, anytime about anything. I cannot. I need a purpose and a reason. So this small talk stuff is difficult for some people. So when you are walking and they're small talking you, or when you walk into an interview room or on Zoom and they're asking you these type of questions, engage. Even if it's not your thing, even if you're not a small talk person, engage with them. Hey, the drive was great. The weather's good. Like, how about you? Where are you at? Where are you located? Like, have that conversation and be engaging. So I see a lot of people just get stoic. They're nervous. They're waiting for their interview questions because they've memorized 30 questions and they've got to get the answer right. So they're preoccupied and they just sit there stoic and they just answer. They're like, good, drive was fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's this like fear, like this look of fear on the face. Well, what that does is that does not connect. That is the opposite of chemistry. People are like, I don't want to work with that person. So I'm not saying, again, you don't have to be outgoing and, woo, way over the top. It's just a smile and have the conversation. I'm good. Thank you. Like, where'd you drive in from? Just having conversation. So that's one thing. That's one mirror. The other is the opposite of that, where so I interview, my other business, I think I mentioned earlier, is I do a lot of hiring and for churches and ministries, and I do the initial screening on the front end. So I have like, some days I'll have 10 to 16 interviews scheduled back to back to back to back. And I have 30 minutes and I know my questions. I know the type of people I'm looking for. I know I'm screening for experience on these initial ones and engagement. And so when I get somebody on the call and I call them, hey, I have my process down. Hi, this is Jessica. I am talking to you today for this job. Here is a quick overview of the job. Thank you so much for being here. And then I dive in. Tell me about your experience. And I dive in and go right. The people that try to make small talk with me when I am obviously on a mission, it works against them because I'm like, hey, I need to redirect. I need to go back to the questions. I only have 30 minutes. And if they keep trying to steer me off, then exactly, Lori, they cannot take social cues. The EQ, emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, is very low for people that cannot take those social cues. So that's one of the things we see. Yes, that were exactly, Lori. So everyone is different. And if you're hiring for a position that needs somebody of a high EQ, then, and they're not taking those cues, they're not understanding, or they're interrupting, and you have to say, hey, listen, I need to really get through this interview, so I'm just going to keep asking questions. And then if they keep going off, then that is a cue to understand, okay, this might not be a good fit because I know the type of person that needs to fill this role. They're very busy, they have a lot to do. So that, when I say mirror the initial response, this is what I'm talking about. This is how you make connection. And this is how you build chemistry. All right, here are some questions that I would like you to think about, though, for your interview. You're all going to get the tell me about yourself question. Okay. And in that one, it's a short summary, mostly professional. So if I go into, let's see, I want to see somebody who said what they were doing. I'm just looking through the chat real quick. Okay, Angela, account specialist. So she's an account specialist too. So I'd imagine this is probably a government position because usually government positions are the ones that give 1, 2, 3, the levels like that. So Angela, can you just kind of give me an overview of your experience? Tell me about yourself. And Angela should go into a couple minute response about herself professionally. I've been in this in this industry or job type for the last 7 years at these two companies, and I have an associate's degree that relates. And here's kind of where I'm really strong at, what I do really well when I'm managing these accounts. I'm really detail oriented and I'm able to catch a lot of the things people can't catch. And so she's giving this overview of herself. And maybe you throw in something personal, like I have been working remote for the last couple years, but I'm really missing kind of that daily connection with people and really looking forward to, a hybrid or an in-person position because I am so good on Teams and engagement. And so, you can throw something like that in there. I ask this question in almost all my interviews. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Give me your experience, something like that. And I was interviewing this guy for this position. Oh gosh, it's been a couple of years now, but this story, I'll never forget it. And I asked, this is the first question I ask. Tell me about yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me about your experience. And this guy went on for 25 minutes. I tried to interrupt him like 4 times. I actually put the phone down and walked away. And he would not stop talking. And I was just like, oh my gosh, is this guy ever going to end? Ever going to stop talking? And I'll tell you what, you guys, that was the only question I asked him the whole interview, because he was obviously not a fit, because that's not the type of people that we wanted to hire. So you want to make sure that your answers are succinct enough. And I am talking a couple minutes for each question. So it's not like you have to time yourself. You don't have to have anything memorized, but you do want to kind of like practice a little bit. So if somebody does ask about your experience, which they're going to, what are you going to say? Same with strengths and weaknesses. Same there. What are your strengths? What are some things you're really good at? And then also, what are some of the things maybe that aren't strengths? And the absolute worst answer to this, to weaknesses, is, I don't know, I really can't think of any. Because that tells a company that you don't really know yourself. The reality is we all have weaknesses. Mine is attention to detail. And so I have people around me. I sent an email out on Monday. This is Tuesday. I sent an email out on Monday with an error in it. And I have 3 people that proof my stuff because I make mistakes. I am not a detail person. I'm like thinking about the next thing, and we missed it. And so I have somebody who is actually a VP of communications, is volunteering, and she's now overseeing all my communications before they go out. Because I'm like, okay, I need to change the process because the process isn't working. We're gonna miss things here and there, but like it happened 2 weeks in a row. So I'm like, I need a better way. So what are your weaknesses and how are you getting around those? How are you doing that? That's the answer that you want to give. And then always they're going to ask a version of this. Either why are you interested or why should we hire you? Those questions are always asked. So if you're interviewing only with companies that you have spent time updating your resume, researching them, getting to know, then this question is going to be so easy to answer. Going back to Donica and Delta, and she's on the Zoom call and she's answering. They're asking her, why are you interested in this position? And she's like, are you kidding? Delta is my #1 choice. Like, I have wanted to work for Delta since I was a little kid flying with my mom across the country. Like, she has some story. Like, if you're researching these companies, you have a connection to them. When I moved to Arizona when I was 24 years old, I walked into this staffing firm and I said to them, I only want to work for Intel or Motorola. That's all I want to work for. And they said, well, we don't have any opportunities with them right now. who else? And I was working as an administrative assistant at the time as I was finishing up my degrees. And I said, no one else. I only want to work with Intel and Motorola. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was 24 years old, but I was like very like sure about that. And they said, all right, well, we'll call you if anything happens. No joke. The next morning they call me and they go, we have a really great opportunity at Intel. And I'm like, I'm there. And I walk in, do the interview, nail it because that's where I wanted to work. And it was so easy to answer. Why are you interested? I'm like, are you kidding? This is where I want to work. I know people here. Like I had all the answers. So, and I remember walking in that very first day that I worked at Intel, again, 24 years old. And I was like, I am going to retire here. Like I was so excited to work there. You know, that worked for 10 years until they decided I wasn't going to work there anymore. But like answering these questions get so easy to answer when it's actually somewhere you want to be. I have had many people, I'm not just talking one or two. I have had many people say to me, can you tell me about the company? And I am like, are you kidding me? That is the worst question to ask in an interview because it tells everyone in the room that you don't even really care. You don't, it's luck of the draw. It's the spaghetti on the wall. And they're like, it's not sticking here. Like you need to know why you are in the room, why you want to be there. Okay, so those four. Then the one I haven't talked about yet is behavioral questions. And so behavioral questions are kind of like, they're the most asked questions. So they're the ones that are like, tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when you had to have a difficult conversation. Tell me about a time when you had to deal with an irate customer on the phone. Tell me about a time when you did a project implementation. Tell me about a time when you ran an event. That's what I'm talking about. Anything that is going to need examples. Tell me about a time. Tell me about a time. And so when I was talking earlier about having those stories written down, those stories are going to answer these questions. And you don't have to know the questions because here's the deal. If you think through and write out information on great things that happened in your working career. So if I say to you, I'll just work through this real quick because again, we don't have time to do the deep dive. Again, that interview workshop is next week. But if I say to you, think about one thing you've done in your work life that you're really, really proud of. Can you write that down on your piece of paper that we have here? Write down just one thing you're really proud of that you've done in your work. Maybe you ran a stellar event. Maybe you saved the company some money. Maybe you got an award. Maybe you helped negotiate a deal. Maybe you made money for the company. Maybe you changed the system on something. So write that down. Then that answer right there, you build out. You think through it and you try to remember what are the details about it, the who, what, when, where, why. Okay, like what are the details about this example? What was the accomplishment? And so what you're going to do is you're going to work on having 10 of those examples. And you don't have to write out the whole story, but when you walk into an interview, you're going to walk in with a piece of paper or a notepad, and you're going to have 1 through 10 listed, and you'll just have kind of the title of the story so that when a question like, tell me about a time you had to work with a difficult person, you're going to look down at your list of stories and you're going to go, oh, that project was really, I had this really crazy lady I had to work with. And so you can talk through that example, but at the same time you're talking through that example, you're actually giving them an example of an accomplishment you had. So that's what we're going to do in the interview workshop. So if you can't make it, listen back to the playback. And it is, again, the last one we're doing for this grant. So I want to be sure that you have the opportunity to do that next week, but you're going to want to have 10 of those written down. So Kevin has a question about how do you handle the weaknesses question. Okay, then I'm going to give it from my perspective, Kevin. If somebody says, so what would you consider your weaknesses? And I would be like, you know what? I am not the most detailed person. And so I am loving ChatGPT right now, because what I've been able to do is verify any of my content or writing with ChatGPT. So for example, I was sending out a follow-up email. I gave a keynote talk last week, and it was about purpose plus influence equals legacy. Like, that was the content. And I was creating this follow-up document to be sent out after it. Well, I'm not the most detailed person. So what I did is I put together the content and then dropped it in a ChatGPT and said, hey, can you reformat this? And then ChatGPT responded with it, and it was great. I just had to go do some formatting and some changes. And so that's how I get around, the fact that I'm not super detail oriented. So that is what I recommend that you do, is think about what is your weakness, and then come up with how do you work with that. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm reading some of the questions over here. Miss Kat, if you don't have examples about working on projects, can you think about when have you worked with other people in general? So maybe you volunteered at your kid's school, or you did a school project together, or like it doesn't necessarily have to be projects. It can be anything. Like anytime you worked with people, those are great. Anything around team building is going to work for you there. Oh, really good question. Renee, Abby, Kimberly. Okay, so analysis paralysis is a real thing. Here's the thing. When they ask, what is your strength? I am extremely detail oriented. And what I mean by that is, and give an example. I'll give you an example of when this just happened to us. So I am extremely detail oriented. I am a, I'll give it, excuse me, sorry, once again. My volunteer is Susan, her name is. She's phenomenal on details. And so I totally get what you're talking about here. So Susan writes a lot. In fact, the email you guys are going to get today after this event is coming. Susan wrote it. It's coming from me. I gave her the kind of outline, and she wrote the email, and then she proofed it, and she proofed it again and again and again and made sure it was right. And again, so I get it. She's like that. She's just all about, it has to be perfect. And so she has told me, like, this same thing applies to her. She never wants to send anything wrong, so she can get analysis paralysis. And so we talked through it, and I said, what helps you with that? So she says, okay, so her strength is detail orientation. She can catch the tiniest little comma that should be a semicolon, that maybe it's a period. She's good. But she said, I give myself a deadline. So from the weaknesses standpoint, she can move into analysis paralysis. And so what she does to get around it is she gives herself a deadline and then pulls the trigger. So it is good enough by this date. So for her, it's dates, it's deadlines. And then also, if she's really not sure, at least on the projects we work together, she'll send it to me and say, hey, are you good with this? And you guys, I've never not said no. They're perfect. And so I'm like, yeah, it looks great. So that's like a validation point for her. So she knows what it takes, her strength, to make sure she knows what her strength is, but also she knows her weakness. And so she knows how to get around it. So it's really about sit down and think through your strengths and your weaknesses, and have examples ready to go for your strengths, but for your weaknesses, how do you get around it? And if you're like, listen, I'm not, then like you maybe need some coaching, or a counseling appointment, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful or legitimately, like if you cannot make a decision, like there's a reason, there's a fear of being wrong, maybe a fear of not being liked or whatever. I don't know, because I don't know you guys, but like there's a whatever that is, you've got to figure out a way around it. And you've got to be able to answer that question. So great question, you guys. Yes, how good is good enough? Exactly. And then it's time to go. Okay, so those are some of the questions that you're going to get asked. Now, questions that you can ask. My favorite questions to ask are not even on here. My favorite questions to ask are during the interview, when it feels like you can have a conversation a little bit. So if they ask you a question about your leadership style and you tell them, I like to lead from the front. I do like to lead by example, but I am a master delegator. That I'm talking about myself. I am a master delegator. I am not great at micromanaging. And so because of that, I make sure to have meetings regularly to do a touch point. And I expect people to do the job that they're given and have agreed to. Is that like, what's the leadership style of this organization? Is that a good match? What's your leadership style? So like throw in the questions as you're having the interview. And because then it becomes more conversational than sitting at the end and going through it. Wait, okay, I have 5 questions. Let me ask. And that feels awkward a lot of times. So, but always ask questions and always finish with a question. A question about culture is the magic wand question. A question about culture. Like what's a really, one of my favorite questions actually, you guys, is, and this one's not on here. This is the last question. This is not like in the middle of the interview. This is the last question. Like, based on what we talked about today, is there anything stopping you guys from moving me forward? Is there anything I didn't explain to you, or that didn't quite come across, or that something I'm missing? Because when somebody asks me that, I answer it every time, and so do most hiring managers. And often that will be the moment that they'll say, you know what, I'm just not really sure about this. You don't have quite the experience. And that gives you the time to prove to them you're the right fit. So, it doesn't look like, I think what the hiring managers are going to struggle with is you only have a year experience in this, and we're really looking for someone 5 to 7 years. And then you get to rebuttal it. And you get the opportunity to be like, oh gosh, I know I only had a year professional experience in this, but do you know, I was doing this through college. I did an internship. I didn't mention to you guys, I did this internship. And so it's like been ingrained in me my whole life. So think about that. Ask that question, based on the interview today, everything you heard from me, is there anything stopping you from moving me forward, or any questions you have? You're not sure about my experience, it's a match. That's a really good question. So these are also pretty good, but again, as much as part of the conversation you can have, those are the ones that work really well. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment to talk about references. So again, if you were here at the very beginning of the call, this workshop today is a high-level overview of job search essentials. And then we have had additional workshops that do a deep dive. We have 2 workshops left, one on interviewing and one on salary negotiation, that will deep dive. So this is a high-level overview. One of the essentials is references. And I bring references up because you should have these prepared now, way ahead of time of ever being asked. So here's the process for references. You need 6 to 8 references. 6 to 8. You need 2 from each of these categories. 2 people that have been your boss or manager before. 2. If you don't have 2, that's fine, just 1. But whoever has been your boss. It could even, if you're, maybe you took 15 years off to raise your kids and you don't really have a boss. Well, did you volunteer? Who was the person you reported to? Who was the person that sat on the PTA board and you were helping with events at your kid's school? Like that could be a leader. Anyone that kind of was leading you. So 2 leaders, you need 2 colleagues. So people that were that worked alongside of you. And again, could be volunteer stuff, does not have to be work. If you're a new recent college graduate, maybe it's a student or somebody that you worked alongside. So 2 of those. This is the one not everyone has. So 2 people that worked for you. So if you've been a leader, if you've been a boss, if you've been a manager, then 2 people that have worked for you, and then 2 personal references. So that's 8. 6 to 8 references. And what you're going to need to do with these references is qualify them, prepare them ahead of time. And what you need to do is email or text or call, whatever, these 6 to 8 people that you're thinking of. Send them a note, say, I would love to include you on my list of references. I'm job searching right now, and these are the types of jobs I'm looking for. And would you be a reference for me? And I'm going to need your email and your phone number. And you could also ask their the name they want to be presented by, and then also their current company and title. So you can get those all written down on a piece of paper, so that when it comes time, a company says, hey, can you send me your references? You have them. But what you do is this. You look at those list of references, and a company will usually tell you something like 2 to 3 references. You look at that list of references and you choose the best ones for that job. So you're like, okay, this leader, this colleague, and this personal reference have either some type of connection, or we did the similar type of work, or they can best represent me for that company. And then, so you send off the references to the company and you have an immediate response, because by the time they're asking for references, that's good news. And you want to respond quickly. And so you get those references off, and then you text or email the 3 people you sent to the company. You text or email them and you say, hey, I just sent your name over for a job as my reference. Here is the company. Here is the job description. You can give the link to their website. Oh, and here are the things I want you to make sure you talk about. So you actually tell them how you want them to advocate for you. And when people do that, the references are so good. Your references should be good anyway, but they're so good. You guys, I have had phone calls for references of people I barely knew and had no idea they put me down as a reference. And I had to say that. Don't just send references. Send qualified references that know what you're doing. So that's why I want you to make sure you write that down, you get your 6 to 8 references together, and you're ready to go with them. Lori, great question. What if your best supervisors are no longer with the company? Doesn't matter. Try to reach out to them. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. Maybe you have a phone number, an email, or a personal email, and say, hey, I know you're not there anymore, but could you be a reference for me? So these references that you're giving are not the same. They could be the same, but mostly not. When a company calls, you're like, they're like, we're doing reference checks. We're going to do your background check. We're going to do your reference check. A lot of times that means they're going to call the companies to validate your dates of employment from the previous employer or the previous 2 employers. Those are different references than what I'm talking about here. Those references are more on the background check side. So it's like the only questions they're legally supposed to ask are, did this person work here and when? Like the dates of employment. And HR typically has a place for that. They call the employment line, they ask those questions, they validate you work there. These are personal references where they can say anything they want about you. So that's why when you say, here are my references, you want to make sure your people are ready to go. You don't want to just send randoms because you're like, what are they? I don't know what they're going to say. So that's the difference. And you want to prep them. Okay. If you have no subordinates, Angela, no problem. So 6 to 8 references. And the difference is because many of us won't have subordinates. No one's worked for us before. So you would have, if you don't have subordinates, then you're going to have 6. You're going to have 2 leadership, 2 colleagues, and 2 personal. That'll give you 6. All right. So what we talked about today is how you really start to think about being a hiring manager. You're not thinking like a job seeker. You're thinking like a hiring manager. I'm looking for somebody who's competent, that is a character match, and I like them. That is how you get. So we're going to dive into a couple tools here to finish us out today. Some we've talked about and touched on a little bit, and some are new. So the first one is, do I have anyone on the line that isn't really sure what they want to do? Like, what is my next step? Where am I going? What kind of job do I want? Anyone on the line? Okay. So if that is you, then you definitely want to do some research. Yeah. So some people, yes, and some people kind of, everyone should be doing research, but if you're not sure, then spend some time in this space. We also, and I don't think I have it in here, but we also have a new tool called Pathways that we're just launching. We just did a soft launch. We're just moving into the hard launch, but that is a program that will walk you through a full development and trying to understand and figure out what is the exact career for you and how do you get focused and do it. So that's called Pathways, and you'll see our stuff about that in other areas, but that is a tool available to you as well. And then here are some places to go. So if you're in Arizona, if you're specifically in Pinal County, this link is going to be on your email. There's a website that talks about different economic indicators, industries that are hiring specific to Pinal County. If you're in Arizona, ArizonaJobConnection.gov is a good /job seeker is a good one. They have some great tools out there for you to do research. For all of us, doesn't matter where you live, ONET. Okay, I like ONET. It's going to give you a lot of job options and details and skills and tools. It's going to give you a lot, but it's kind of hard to navigate. So just know if you go onto ONET, it might take some time to navigate through, but it is worthwhile information. And then there's this other tool that I really like called Pipeline AZ. All of these tools are free, by the way. PipelineAZ.com. I know it says AZ in the verbiage, but it's really for anyone nationally, internationally, really. And what this does really well is it gives you different, based on your skills, it gives you different ideas on types of careers that would be a match for you. Now, they do have a whole side of the system that is job matching, but it's just not as powerful as the front end, the navigation, the research side of matching your skills. So Pipeline AZ, it's really, really great. I encourage you all to check these out. They'll be in your follow-up email as well. And you could do some really good searching and figuring out a focus for a career map. Now, when you are ready to get serious, I really want to look at the vision I want. Now, this is for everyone. This is not just for the people that are looking for not sure what career you're in. You want to do your own assessments. You want to figure out, one, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Because obviously those questions are going to come up. But what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your values? Like, what do you care about? What do you, and the reason, and I don't have time to do this today, But one of the most valuable things you can do is figure out what are your top values in your life right now. Because if you figure those out, then it will help guide the type of career that you want to go for, the priorities. And let me give you an example. So years ago, when my husband and I got married about 20, almost 21 years ago, it was shortly after this, we went through a marriage program. And part of that was, what did we want our family to look like, as far as, what kind of values were going to drive us? What were we going to do? So we have five values: faith, family, friends, finances, and fun. All right, those are our five family values. They're all F's. And so no matter what in our life, those are our values. Now, the difference is how that plays out in your season of life. So when our kids were little, and all through up through junior high, so we have, we're in high school and beyond now. But when we were in that place where sports were constant, kids home from after school, like all of that, we made a decision that I was going to go away from the corporate America route and launch my own business, because I wanted to be home in the mornings and after school. I wanted to be the one picking my kids up, or here when all the kids were running around playing. I didn't want my kids to be home alone. So we made the choice. Those are our values. We know these are our five values. And we know that number two is family. And so it was really important in that season of our life for me to be home. That changed the type of work I was going to do. That it put some requirements on it. I couldn't travel. I used to travel globally, internationally, all over. I've been to so many countries. I loved that job. But that wasn't going to work in this phase of our life. And we already know that's a value. So that is a driver. Yes, we needed to make decent money, but we weren't willing to forego family for making more money. And the reason I tell you this is because when I talk to people about defining what kind of job they want, what they want to do, what salary they need, and they define it, and then they might get a job offer, and that job offer might come in very high salary, but might include like 50% travel. And then they're like, dang it, my values say family, and my values say at this phase of my life, I need to be home. And I can't travel. I can't travel that much. I can get a nanny, but I don't want to. That's not the desire, and that's not my value. So I have to say no to that opportunity. When you define what your values are and the things you care about and your priorities before you start interviewing like crazy, it helps you make the yeses yes and the no's heck no. It helps you define those things. And that's why then it gets you strategic into the job you're looking for. So now in the season of my life, I have a 16-year-old, 18 and 26. I can travel all over the place because they're either gone or busy all the time. I, of course, want to be around on weekends or when they're not working or whatever. But I don't need to be here after school. In fact, it's so funny. I even say that because as we're talking here, my daughter's car is in the shop, my youngest, and she was literally texting me, and she said, my friend canceled. Well, we live a mile from her high school. She said her friend canceled on her ride home. So, but you know what? She's not 10. She can walk home. And she probably did. And she's probably sweaty and probably mad. And I don't care. Like, pull your big girl panties up and deal with it. So that's what I'm saying. It's different seasons. So define your values. What is important? That will help you define the type of job you're going to go after. And it may not give you the type of job, but it'll say, yes, that is a type of position I can go into. because then you do the research, you start to use the tools, you start to figure out if you can do this, if you can do that. It's research. And then you start to put your action plan together. This is the type of job I want. These are my values. These are, what I could do well. Now, what do I need to do to get there? What resources do I need? Jessica gave us a whole bunch of links, and I can start there. I can start talking to our WIOA resources. I can get a career coach. I can get a resume writer. I can talk to somebody I know that's done a ton of hiring. I can do more trainings. I can go get AI certification. Like, what do I need to go from where I am today to where I want to be? That is the action plan. And for those of you that are like me and do not like to write down action plans and make them happen, we have to buck up and get it done. Because if you do the work, you're going to get to the place you want to get. But if you don't do the work, you're going to be in 6 months like, oh, I can't find a job. It's a terrible market. No, get focused, have a strategy, have a plan, and go after it. And then after you're clear, after you know your values, the priorities, you've done the research, you have a plan, guess what you get to do? You get to start sharing that plan with people. And so back to my friend Linda that I told you was volunteering. And she helped us put together this portal. And she's a whiz. She's wonderful. And I was like, thank you so much. This is great. Is this kind of what you want to do? And she's like, I like this work a lot. And I've done it. I know it. I've done it forever. And in this season of my life, my kids are older. I can kind of travel. I can do more. I can be gone more. I really want to make an impact in people's lives. I want to do something that means something, kind of like on that legacy side a little bit. And she said, and I want to do something that is like culture, something to help people, something that so people like what they're doing. And so she started to, after she did all these things, the assessment, the tools, she had an action plan. Part of her action plan was volunteering. It's, stepping out of her comfort zone. She started talking about what she wanted to do and sharing it. And you guys, when you start to share things, when you start to put it out there, when you talk about it, some of you know. Isn't it so weird when you start talking about something and then somebody knows somebody and they're like, you need to meet this person and you need to do this. And, oh, I know this person. Because if you get clear on who you are, what you're about, what you want to do with your career, if you get clear and and then you start to share it, people will start to connect people to you. It's how it happens. Let me tell you about something and I don't know if you're on the call right now, but let's see. No, I don't think she is. So I met this. Okay, so to tell the story as quick as I can. I did a keynote talk last week in Tempe. And I briefly mentioned this, but it was about, it was for a women's leadership conference. And it was about purpose. So knowing your purpose, plus having influence. We all have influence, by the way. You think you're not influential, you're wrong. Even your little circle of friends or your 2 kids or your spouse, you have influence. So knowing your purpose-ish, you don't even have to have the whole thing defined, but knowing what you care about, your values, what you care about. So your purpose plus your influence, those 2 together can help you create a legacy. So something that is a ripple effect that affects people's lives. And so I was giving this talk last Wednesday. And it was an hour-long keynote and it was so fun. I loved it. So in the room, I didn't know this at the time, was this gal, her name's Maya. And she knows some of my friends. And so one of my friends, I didn't know this, invited her to come to the conference. And then when I spoke, I mentioned Career Connectors and we had an event the next day. So last Thursday we had an event And it was a virtual event, and it was about LinkedIn, and it was about strengths. And then we have coaches and resume writers and stuff helping. And so she attended that event. And part of attending that event, I moderate those events. Part of attending that event, I always say, can you drop in the chat your LinkedIn profile, because we all like to connect with each other. And so she had dropped her LinkedIn profile, and I connected with her, and I sent her a note and said, thanks for attending. Da, da, da. So that was on Thursday. And my friend said to me, I was telling her on a phone call Thursday afternoon about a new role that I'm considering. And I don't even know what the role is, but I know this is what our organization needs. I don't know where the funding is going to come from yet. Like, I have a board meeting and I want to talk to them about this. And so she said, hey, I know a gal that's really good. And she told me her name, Maya. And I was like, oh, okay, I think she was on my call this week. And she goes, well, she was also at your keynote talk on Wednesday. I'm like, oh, so cool. She goes, you probably should meet her. So I messaged her in LinkedIn and said, hey, Denise said I should meet you. And so I said, are you available for coffee? So we went to coffee this morning, and you guys, no joke, like I said, what are you looking for? Right? I went through this. What are you looking for? What kind of job? Da, da, da. And we were just getting to know each other. And she's like, I'm really good with strategy. So she shares this. I don't have a job for her. I don't know what I had no idea, but she's like a strategy person. She literally laid out the type of person we need for our organization to get us to the next phase. And I said, she goes, I would love to volunteer for you. And she goes, and help with strategy. Do you have that option? And I said, well, we have a board meeting. Da, da, da. I talked her through some things. And she's like, oh my gosh, I would love to volunteer. So she's going to come to our board meeting and volunteer. And she may very well work her way into a full-time position that is beyond her wildest dreams of what kind of job she wanted. But here's why I'm telling you. She knows her strengths. She knows her values. She had done the research. She has the experience. And so she was able to just start talking about it. Now, she may not end up landing full-time with me. It may not work, but I certainly will be happy to talk about her all the time if she does this well. So talk about what you want to do to people. Don't hide it. Don't be embarrassed. Say, this is what I am gifted at, and this is what I want to do, and this is the season of life I'm in, or here are some of the things I'm up against. Somebody had written in here some things they were up against around retail, and I can't find it right now. I'll have to go back and look for it. But if you have some barriers to employment or barriers to jobs, it's okay to talk about that. That is something you're dealing with, and it's okay to talk about that. Okay, so it's okay to share that story. So just start talking and sharing that stuff. Believe that you are worthy of good employment, because you are, and you are worthy of having a job that fits into your lifestyle. All right, so next, let's talk about resumes. I just want to touch on a couple things here. Again, I am not the resume expert, but Lori Norris or Brenda Mariah are. They're the ones that we send out to train all the time, but I learn from them, and I keep up based on all of the great resume professionals we work with. I am telling you that your Aunt Jane, who hired 25 people 10 years ago, if she's giving you resume advice, don't listen. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm saying that because if it's not coming from a credible source that is current in resume formatting and resume information and applicant tracking software, then they don't know. They don't know what it takes to get through an applicant tracking software. And if your resume is not getting hits, there's a reason. It probably comes down to one of these four things. Format, or some of the components, or your keywords aren't quite in there, or you don't have great accomplishment statements. So let's talk format. On your resume, again, I'm just going to hit the high points. On your resume, you need it to be readable. And so what that means is you want the fonts that our resume writers tell us are good fonts, Arial or Calibri. I'm going to write those in the chat. Arial or Calibri are two of them, and there's a couple others that they like, but those are standard ones that are easy to read. Don't use any format, a font that has sans, S-A-N-S, sans serif, anything like that, because they put little feet on the characters and it's difficult to read. And so if you're reading a lot of resumes, even on the computer, you're scanning through a whole bunch of resumes, it's hard if you make it hard to read because you have weird font or colors or highlights or a whole bunch of weird stuff, you're just going to get past. They're not going to read it. So you want Calibri or Arial, those are good options. And font size, we here go with 11 or 12 on the font size. Do not, under any circumstances, go under 10. Do not, even if you're like, but I just want to get it all on one page. No. Do not go under 10. 10 is even too small, really. But you want it readable and you want space so they can read it. A page or two is fine. Don't think you have to have a one-page resume. You do not. You do not. In fact, most resumes are submitted online and it's all about the keyword matches. So a page or two is great. If you're new in your career and you only have a page, great, that's fine. It's more about what your accomplishments and keywords are on your resume, not so much the length. A page or two is great. The only time people will go into longer, like 3 pages or more, if they're actually CVs, which are used for like doctorate, chemical research, like very technical type positions. So a page or two is fine. You want to have a resume that is in chronological order. In fact, you try and fight this in any way, shape, or form, every single resume writer that knows anything about anything is going to be like, you're wrong. What chronological means is you start with the most current position you've had at the top. So you have your name and information up here, and then you start with your work experience. The most current position is right here. And then the one before that is below it. And then the one before that is below it. Okay, go back 10-ish years. If you have a position that was 15 years ago, but it relates to the job you're applying for, put that position on. That's fine. You can even have a section at the bottom of your resume that says additional work experience, and you can list a company or two. But I would not go back. Don't include companies that go back that far if they do not relate to the job you're applying for. People will tell us things like age discrimination. I'm not getting called because of age discrimination. And you look at the resume and the top thing says seasoned professional, retired Army, and they list every position they've had since high school. That's why you're not getting called. It's not necessarily age discrimination. Now, we know that's real. We know it's out there. But most companies are, if you have the top couple companies, great. Angela, you've been at the same company for 21 years. You got to put it down, right? You got to put it down. But maybe, and you could talk to Lori about this, or Brenda. Brenda will be teaching the salary negotiation one. So this would be a good question for her. I imagine she may tell you that within the 21 years, were you in the same job? Maybe you had a different job the last 10 or 15 years that relates to the job you're applying for. Only include those last 10 or 15 years. Only put those dates on your resume. I'm not sure exactly how she would answer that, but that's how I would answer that. And then realize you are writing a resume primarily for the applicant tracking software. Now, people will read your resume, but once it goes into the applicant tracking software, the software is when you go on to a company like Delta and you apply online, that resume is going into the applicant tracking software and it's getting read on the system and it's matching you and it's saying yes you're a fit or no you're not a fit based on keywords and accomplishments. So you want to have really, really good keywords and accomplishments within your resume. All right. Now, in your resume, of course, you want your contact information at the top. That is your name, your phone number, and only put one phone number, your cell phone. Your LinkedIn URL, if you have it, and I hope most of you do, your LinkedIn URL, and then city and state, if you want to put that on there. Especially if you are, let's say you live in, there's a couple people here from Cleveland, Ohio. Let's say you live in Cleveland, Ohio, but you're from Davenport, Iowa. And you have I think they're like 563 is their area code. 563 is their phone number because when they were 16, they got a cell phone and that's what they've had since they've been 16. But now you live in Cleveland, Ohio, where it's freaking cold. And you're like, but they have a 563 phone number. You want to put city and state on the contact information because it looks like with your phone number, you're not local, especially if you're applying for jobs in that city. So that's why you would want to put the city and state. I would not recommend putting your full address. The reason is because once you get your resume out there into the Indeeds and Monsters and stuff, that is a security issue. Now, if you have to add a full address when you're applying to a company online, that might be required, but only use it for that company. Usually, if there's something not filled out when you submit your resume, it'll ask you in the applicant tracking software, fill in the information that's not filled in, and you would just go fill that in. So contact information, a title and a header. That title and header is the name of the job that you're applying for. Okay, that's it. Project coordinator, that's it. It's a match for the job. Whatever the job description said is what that says. And then of course your work experience, and then you're going to integrate your skills. And so you'll have a master resume. You'll have a resume. Hopefully all of you create your resume with all this information. And then as you apply for each job, you go back and you look at the job description, and then you update your resume based on that job description. Because if that job description says these 10 skills you must have, then those 10 skills need to be incorporated into your resume through accomplishments, different training, different things on your resume, but they need to be incorporated in so it shows that you have the actual skills to do the job. And then, up to 75% of applications and resumes are rejected because of formatting. Because of formatting or keyword issues. Mute everybody here. Okay. Sorry, if you could stay muted, we're almost done and we'll open for questions at the end. And so you got to make sure your formatting is good and your keywords are a good match for that job description. All right, and then accomplishment statements. These are the things under your work experience that are strong. Did you make the company money? Did you save them money? Did you increase productivity? Did you make people happy? You want to have what was the result? Those are accomplishment statements. And go back again and watch any of the resume workshops we've done online. And Lori and Brenda walk through this. Or if you prefer and you want to go through the Pathways program, we walk through this and step by step you create your accomplishment statements. And my favorite / not favorite, but the thing that is going to get you guys there faster than anything else is networking. And so people say to me, but networking is so hard and it takes so much time. Yeah, I know. But it also gets you where you're going the fastest. even though it doesn't seem like it does. It will. So most of us, when we get laid off, we're looking for a new job, most of us go right onto a job board and start applying like crazy. We do select 10, submit our resume. That kind of resume we pulled together in 5 minutes and we just submit it. And we're frustrated because we never hear back from anyone. And so that is how most of us do it. But employers, they start at the top of this. When a company is hiring, especially for the good jobs. So when I have a hiring manager come to me and they're like, okay, this is an important job to us. We got to find the right person. The first question I ask is, do you know anyone already that would be a good fit? Or what about your network? Do they know anyone that would be a good fit? And if you've ever been a hiring manager, maybe you've done this. But I know anytime I hire, I'm thinking, who do I know? In fact, like I just walked through this with you guys, I'm thinking about possibly bringing on a new person. And I'm just starting to talk about it. And I went to coffee with somebody that's maybe possibly a fit for the role. I don't even have a job description. I have nothing. In fact, she may work herself into a job by creating it. And so those are the jobs you want. You don't want just a random job, unless maybe that's your season of life when you're like, literally, Jessica, I want a $15 an hour job and I want to work 20 hours a week. That's it, because of these life circumstances. Even still, with that, you probably know someone in your network that can be like, yes, start tomorrow, come on in. So you really want to go after the networking side, because most people are going to hire and do business with people they know and people they like. And most jobs bring in tons of applications. And you are luck of the draw. See this guy and all his resumes? You're luck of the draw. Where are they going to draw from today? Essentially, now it's all in a database, a system online, but it's still luck of the draw. It's the keywords. Do they match? Did I put the right thing on my resume? Are they going to match the job description? Am I in the top 5% of who can write a best resume? I mean, reality, right? Like, you might be a perfect fit, but you didn't have the right keywords, the right experience for that person. The keywords didn't match. We don't know. So instead, I mean, you want to do the keyword match. You want to take the time on your resume, but you want to focus on the networking side of it, because 85% of jobs are landed through some type of networking. It might be LinkedIn. It might be, today, maybe some of you are making connections with each other, but networking is all about getting to know some people. I had to literally get rid of the word networking in my brain, because networking to me, when I hear it, I kind of like, ugh, that sounds terrible. Walk into a room, hand out my business card, do a 30-second elevator pitch, listen to their 30-second elevator pitch, take their business card, tell them I'll call them, and never talk to them again. Like, that was how I felt about networking and how lame it was to me. And I thought, okay, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And over the years, I have learned that it's all about being curious, finding a connection, getting to know people. And so when you shift your brain to that, it changes the game. I run the second largest networking association in Arizona. We're only number 2 to Arizona State University alumni, the second largest networking association, and I hate networking. Like, seriously, isn't that insane? So, but I love building relationships. I love getting to know people. I love asking questions. So that's what I have taught people over the years. Ask questions, get to know people, and that is how the great connections happen. So if somebody is working, and somebody dropped this in the chat a little bit ago, and I'm like, yes, if somebody is working at a company that you want to work out, let's see, we had a couple other people that dropped some thoughts in here around where they went. Okay, Kara or Kara. She has Charles Schwab as a company. If anybody on the line right now knows anyone at Charles Schwab or has a connection at Charles Schwab, can you just drop it in the chat? Any kind of connection at Charles Schwab. Does anyone have a connection there? You don't know, Kimberly, you don't know her. You have no idea what she's like, but does anyone have any connections at Charles Schwab? So I don't know, I don't have anyone commenting yet. If you have a connection to Charles Schwab, just say, yes, I do. Just drop it in the chat. But Kimberly, I think it was Kimberly. I don't know if were you the one that said Charles Schwab? Kara, sorry. Hello, Kara. You said Charles Schwab. So Kara, I have a ton of connections at Charles Schwab. They used to be one of our sponsors. And so if you connect with me on LinkedIn, and you have a job you have applied for at Charles Schwab, and you want to talk to the talent acquisition team, the recruitment team, if you want to have that connection, connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me what the job is, and I will make a connection for you at Charles Schwab. That connection, you reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn, is going to get you so much faster in the pipeline than following the regular path of applying, filling out their 5 assessments, and then they have a long hiring process. But here's what happens at companies like Charles Schwab. You make a connection, you know what that person does? They're like, oh, what's your name again? Okay, I am going to go look to see where you are in the process, and I'm going to pull your resume. Literally, that's what happens almost every single time that I have ever made a connection with somebody. Because these big, huge companies like Delta, Apple, Charles Schwab, thousands of people are applying for their jobs. But if somebody says, this person is worthy of your time, and here's a connection, they're going to go, oh, thank you so much. I'll go look and see where they are in the process. That's how it happens. So networking, you're not necessarily networking to land a job. Like, the people you talk to might not be able to go, here's a job, here's a job, here's a job, here's a job, give you a job. But people that they're connected to are probably the step in the right direction. So you can do this at job fairs, career fairs, of course. And a lot of people are like, I don't know about that. Yeah, I went to a job fair this week that was awful. Yeah, or last week, that was awful. There was only one employer there, and I was like, why would anyone come here and waste their time? But then there are also job fairs that are amazing. And it might not be all of the companies you want to talk to, or that you think you want to work for, or maybe they don't have the right jobs for you, but it's a chance to go network and talk to companies to see what jobs they have, but also to get to know the recruiters and drop your name with them and ask a couple questions. So job fairs, even if they're terrible, even if there's only 1 or 2 employers there, it's a great place to connect and get help and get resources. Any kind of alumni networks, if you have gone to college, any kind of associations, even been at a company. So I was at Intel for 10 years, like I mentioned, and there's an alumni network for Intel Alumni Network, IAN. And so I am part of that. I live in Arizona. There is a Phoenix, Ohio State Buckeye alumni program. And there's for all of us that love the Buckeyes that live here, but also there's a business networking group for Ohio State Buckeyes that live in Phoenix. I am connected to both of those, and I haven't been going in the last couple years, but I still, even though I'm no longer a regularly attending, connected to all of those people. Because if you are a sports fan in any capacity, that's a connector. Like, I could be walking down the middle of a busy street in Tempe, Arizona, and go, OH, and somebody's probably going to yell IO. It's ridiculous, but it's how it happens. And so those connection points are so good. They're so good. So find those kind of things. Business meetings, chambers of commerce, any kind of professional association. So I know we're almost out of time, but I want to show you this one also because I think this is super powerful. Let me see if I can jump over. Okay, you guys seeing ChatGPT again? What I want to show you, let me grab into this. Okay, great, thank you. I'm going to jump into my career connectors thread and, oh, it's slow. So maybe I'm not going to jump into that thread right now. I better start a new one. So sometimes these threads, if you have a lot of information, they get kind of bogged down. So you got to start a new thread. Shoot. I was gonna put, okay, it's stuck. I was gonna put, can somebody in the chat write down, oh, there, I'll just start here. Write down, again, a job type or an industry that you're, oh, somebody put insurance earlier. So I'm going to use that. So insurance, sorry, something's going on with my Wi-Fi. We have Google Fiber, I think it's called, is coming to our neighborhood finally. And so they've been out there installing stuff, and I think it's messing up our Cox Wi-Fi. So to find professional associations, you can type in ChatGPT. See how slow it is. Dang it. You can type in insurance professional associations. Okay. Well, anyway, so you can type in ChatGPT, can you give me 10 professional associations for the insurance industry, or 10 project management associations, or 10 business analyst associations? You can do that, and it will give you a list of, okay, I'm just going to ask it right here. Give me a list of 10 project management professional associations. So you put this into ChatGPT and it's slow right now, but it should give you a list. It'll be a PMI, will probably be on here, maybe SHRM or ATD. So it's listing some different ones. You can also make it so specific. Yeah, it's Australia. You can say for the United States, you can say for Arizona, or wherever you're located, Florida or whatever, and it will give you a list based on what you're asking it for. So these are great places to go to conferences, to network, really great places to go. All right. And social media, of course. So LinkedIn, it's almost a non-negotiable anymore. You must be on LinkedIn. You must connect 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day is all you need. You get on LinkedIn when you get up in the morning, kind of get your coffee, get whatever you need to wake up, and do 3 things in 5 minutes. 1, you connect with some people. Maybe yesterday you did some searching on companies and you found a couple other companies that look really good. And you're like, hey, maybe I know some people, or I'm connected to some people at Apple or Delta. Let's see. So I'm going to see, since I've been utilizing you this whole time, Donica, thank you for letting me hijack your name and your company. So I'm going to type in Delta Airlines. I'm assuming it's Delta Airlines you're talking about. So I'm going to type in Delta Airlines. And what pops up for me is I have 2 connections at Delta. And one's a flight attendant and one is a Java developer. Okay. One's in Salt Lake City, one's in Atlanta, Georgia. And both of these are actually first connections to me. So that means they're directly in my network. Now, Donica, you might not be wanting to be a flight attendant. Maybe you're not wanting to be in IT, but even still, really good connections. If I do second level connections, it really opens up. So these are people, look at this. I'm connected to the talent management leader at Delta. That means he's in recruitment. I'm a second connection, so I would need to connect with him, which is fine. But that's how this works. You find people that are in your network, either a first or second connection, and you can reach out to them, you can connect with them, you can say, hey, I just applied for a job, especially if you know them. You can let them know how you guys know each other. So that's the power of LinkedIn. So you connect with a couple people, one or two people or more, however you want to connect with, every day. And then you go out and you find a post, a friend, something, and you like and comment on their post or a couple posts. There's a purpose for the reason to do this, and I'll show that in just a sec. So you connect with a couple people, you like and comment on a post, and then you share content. It could be something that you created and wrote and did, or it could be something somebody else did. For example, I have a lot of people that follow me and will just share my stuff. So they'll share, I have a workshop coming up. They'll share the content I did on staying safe and secure and not getting scammed. They'll share that stuff. And what it does when you share and comment and are active, it gives you more exposure to the hiring managers. They're going to see your post. You're going to make better connections. So you must get on LinkedIn, and you must build that out. So build out your profile, connect, build your network out. This is where you can apply. And again, just be cautious on when you're applying that it's a legitimate job. And then the 5 minutes a day is all it takes. 5 minutes. You can spend longer on that, but it only takes 5 minutes a day. It is not overwhelming. And so here is my friend Mariah, or Brenda Mariah, and you can see how professional this looks. So write her name down, or you can look, of course you can look at mine, but, and you can look at other people's in your space and see what theirs says. You can go to ChatGPT and say, and upload your resume, because you can add documents, upload your resume and say, can you write a LinkedIn summary for me? And guess what? It will write it. And you just need to edit it. Makes it so much easier. Okay, so you can use ChatGPT for everything. And then AI, of course. I have been showing you guys AI and how it can help in a whole bunch of different ways. And we did many live, so I'm not going to go into this, but we did many live examples. You can upload your resume and say, can you help me fix my accomplishment statements? You can upload your resume. You can upload a job description, and you can say, can you update my resume to be a good match for this job description? And then it's doing the work for you. And then you just have to, look at it, edit it, modify it, make sure it's right before you submit it. That moves your 2-hour resume editing job to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's crazy what you can do. Okay. Let's see. So these are the tools we went through. Donica, I assume you're talking about in ChatGPT. Here is something I learned about ChatGPT or whatever, one of the AI tools. Oh, on LinkedIn. The message, when you send messages on LinkedIn. Yes, not everyone answers their question, their messages in LinkedIn. So that does happen sometimes, but make a different connection. Connect with somebody, get an introduction. Introductions almost always will go answered. So see if you can do something that way. Sorry, I'm wrapping it up, or I'd spend more time with you on that. So those are the tools we went over today, all the way from career mapping, development of resumes, networking, key networking, and then the social media side. I gave a lot of stuff today. Had you do a couple activities, really want you thinking like a hiring manager. And so I want you to look back at your notes. Hopefully you wrote them down. I'm sorry, I'm going to go like 3 minutes over. Hopefully you wrote down what is one thing you can do this week to take a huge step in your job search process in landing the job you want. Write that in the chat. What is one thing that you can do this week to land the job that you desire and want? Is it taking the DISC? Is it identifying your values? Only apply for 3 jobs a day. Good one. And even 3 is a lot. But with ChatGPT or Gemini, it's super streamlined. 5 minutes a day on LinkedIn, putting your 10 stories together. You guys, yes, I'm so proud of you. Everyone, you are in it. Determine your purpose and values. Love it. More focused applications. This is good stuff, you guys. Great stuff. Okay, so here are the other 2 workshops I was talking about. Wednesday, May 28th, Thursday, May 29th. We have interview prep. That's with me. You have salary negotiation and compensation and how to do all that with Brenda Mariah. And on the link, we're going to send one of the links we send out. You're going to be able to sign up for these. So that'll be coming. It's also connected on the Career Connectors website under events. If you are in Pinal County, here are more resources for you. Arizona at Work has some great resources for you. There's a QR code, there's a website and a phone number. They have coaches and teams there that do workshops and trainings and interview prep. So lots of great resources. And again, Arizona at Work, Pinal County, thank you so much for sponsoring these workshops over the last year. We've had over 2,000 people attend, and we're just so thankful that we've been able to serve in this capacity. So thank you, thank you. If I have anyone on the line from Arizona at Work, Pinal County, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, and we also, Career Connectors also has events. We just had our May event last week. We have one coming up at the first week of June. We're all about connecting you to the right job, you guys. And so here are the next 2 coming up, June 12th, and then on July 10th. We're going to talk branding, marketing on June 12th. Also, I convinced my husband to come in and talk about your mindset. He was a recruiter for about 20 years, and mid-career change, he went back to school, got his master's degree, and got certified as a licensed professional counselor. And so now he's a counselor and a therapist and is living his dream, man. I don't know how he sits in a room 8 hours a day listening to people and helping guide them through their biggest issues in life, but he does it, and he does it well. And he's going to talk about that grief cycle and how to get through that quickly. And then July 10th, we're going to have Brenda, I've talked about her multiple times, come in and talk about tackling the career obstacle course, age, race, and gender. Man, it's a great conversation. And she's going to talk about how you get around those barriers. And then we have a recruiter that I'm going to interview and give you the real deal on the back end of recruitment and what it looks like. We also have an in-person live career fair on Thursday, May 22nd. This is also with Arizona at Work, Pinal County. And so if you live in Pinal County or Tucson or in Phoenix, anywhere around there, all of these companies are confirmed to be there. And apparently they have about 10 more that should be confirmed by the end of next week or by next week. So I will be there. This is live in person. We're doing a workshop in the morning with a couple of our expert trainers, and then we're doing the career fair in the afternoon. So this will also be on your link under our events. You can find it on Career Connectors website. All right, you should have all checked in. If you didn't check in, Wendy, if you could drop the link one more time. And this QR code or this website, Jessica Pierce Speaks, that's my information. And so if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, on my website, if you have a request for a speaker, if you're running any conferences, I'd love to have that conversation with you. Thank you for being an engaging group. I love teaching and talking and doing this when people are engaging. I'm sorry we didn't leave any time for questions, but feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I am just praying for all of you that you do land in the career of your dreams, because I know it's there, but you got to get focused and you got to get strategic. Thank you all. Thank you. Have a great week.